What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 5BS 101, 3 Admiral beat up Whitebeard, please subscribe. Previous chapter next chapter advertisement, the other party also has people who can fly, maybe we can rescue Ace this time. Then Marine must have become confused, we took the opportunity to go over and rescue Bartholomew Kuma. This scene can also be seen on the warships of the Revolutionary Army. Although they are relatively far away, but with a telescope, you can still see clearly. They had planned to fly to rescue people before. After all, of the 4 army commanders, 2 of them can fly. After all, there are only a few people who have the ability to fly. There are not many people who can fly on this battlefield. When it comes to breaking through from land to the execution platform, there are too many Marines in the middle. It's not realistic to rush in, but if you use a flying one, it will be much easier. It only takes less than a minute to fly across the layer. Everyone has great expectations for flight capabilities. If Marco successfully saves people through his flying ability this time, then the Revolutionary Army can completely replicate this method here. In a moment of chaos, Bartholomew Kuma was rescued by 2 army commanders flying. The plan was perfect. It's Marco, come on, Marco. We must rescue Ace. All the pirates in the Whitebeard pirates were extremely excited. They never expected that Captain Marco would escape control. This is great. With him on sight, he is invincible in the air. With the hope of all members of the Whitebeard pirates, Marco the Phoenix soared into the sky. A beautiful arc was drawn in the sky. Like a fighter jet in a dive, he rushed directly in Ace's direction. He was about to fall onto the execution platform. Even Marco couldn't help but smile, succeeded. However, what he never expected was, at this time. Suddenly the bald man spoke, Garp, kill him. This sentence was said in a neither loud nor quiet voice. However, 527 but it can reach the ears of everyone present. At this moment, Marco's expression suddenly changed. Because he found that the man sitting on the execution platform stood up when he heard these words. Marine hero Garp. Previously, Garp had been sitting on the execution platform with his head lowered. Because of his observation haki, he has already sensed the auras of Luffy and Drago. They're around here. It should be here soon. Garp couldn't help but sigh. Advertisement Luffy, are you here after all? How could you ask Grandpa to save you from this battlefield? This damn son actually dares to bring his dear grandson to a place like this. I will wait until I beat him to death. This is not the place Luffy should be. Garp knows very well that the time will come to test his acting skills. Thinking of this, Garp jumped up instantly, came directly to Marco. Open your chest wide and charge your fist at the highest point. Then he punched Marco in the face, so fast, Mark's expression changed. Immediately use armament haki to add fruit ability defense. Bang! Garp's fist made close contact with Marco's face. Just for a moment, without even a moment's pause, Marco couldn't bear this terrifying force. He was directly knocked away by this punch. The whole body is like a blue meteor. It looks cool when it comes, but it looks awkward when it flies out. Falling suddenly from the air, it hit the ground directly. There was a rumble, smoke and dust flew everywhere, and sand and rocks flew. A huge crater was instantly smashed into the hard rock ground. The surrounding land shook twice. Whitebeard's expression suddenly became stern. He could feel the BFDG punch just now. Marco couldn't bear it. Even if he were devil fruit, he couldn't withstand this punch. Is this old man Garp crazy? He used all his strength against a junior? The smoke cleared now. Marco was lying inside with blood on his face. The whole body twitched and poked twice. His eyes turned white and he lost consciousness. Garp sat back in his original position and glanced in Ron's direction. I couldn't help but think. I was so serious just now, can I reduce the Inspector General's attention to me now? After a while, when Luffy comes, he won't pay too much attention to me. This scene directly caused the Revolutionary Army in the distance to give up the flight rescue plan without hesitation. This Garp is too strong. He is worthy of being the father of the leader. With him guarding the execution platform, no one can get close to it. What's more, forget about saving people under his nose. The pirates of the Whitebeard pirates looked at Marco who fell unconscious next to them. I couldn't help but take a breath. I never expected that this legendary marine hero would be so powerful. Marco has the devil fruit ability. No matter how serious the injury is, he can recover quickly, but this punch actually brought Marco to the verge of death. I saw that the morale of the troops on my side was weakened. Whitebeard stared at him and shouted loudly, don't be scared by this guy's name. He's just a remnant of the old era. There's nothing to be afraid of. Kids, keep rushing with me. Marco, whose life and death are unknown, has made Whitebeard angry to the ultimate. They lost a squad leader so quickly, but they made no progress at all. Just when Whitebeard was checking Marco's injury. Suddenly in the other direction, advertisement the battle between Mahawk and Foil Beasta also had a winner. Under a huge slash, one of Foil Beasta's arms was cut off. Blood flowed. They are both swordsmen, but they are quite different. KR. Foil Beasta covers a broken arm. As a double swordsman, if he loses an arm, his combat effectiveness will be reduced by 70% to 80%. Whitebeard looked at this scene and became even more angry. When did these Shichibukai really become Marines' lackeys? They fought so hard. However, at this moment, the great Maelstrom Spider pirates that rushed the farthest were surrounded by the special Marines ordered by Ron. These Marine soldiers who have mastered the second level of flowing water-breaking fist have extremely high combat effectiveness. It didn't take long before they completely wiped out the Owa Spider pirates. The 2 combat teams sent by Ron both achieved overwhelming victories. Directly cut off the vanguard of the Whitebeard pirates. The sudden advantage they had just gained was once again knocked back to its original form. Whitebeard was angry. 2 division captains were lost in succession. Moreover, a large fleet under his command was completely wiped out. Right in front of him, Whitebeard was furious. Shout loudly, "Little ones, get out of my way. Their opponent is me." In rage, the cloud cutter in Whitebeard's hand was instantly covered with fruit power. Then he slashed directly in the direction of Hawkeye. The huge force carried a huge momentum, and the entire ground was lifted up into a bottomless ravine. Clusters of clouds cut from top to bottom. It seemed as if the entire sky was being lifted up. Hawkeye's expression changed. Is this the attack of the strongest man? Quickly draw your knife to defend, but no matter Hawkeye's strength, he is far behind Whitebeard. What's more, Whitebeard also has the devil fruit ability. This knife, except Roger, no one can guard against him. Hawkeye is still worse after all. Poof! The huge force is like a rainbow penetrating the sun. Straight through the crust. Hawkeye could only defend against the force of the sword, but there was no way to resist the power. It was smashed directly into the ground. A mouthful of blood suddenly spat out. It wasn't over yet. Whitebeard jumped directly into the air. Kong Yunki pointed directly at the ground and actually wanted to stab Hawkeye with a knife. The severe injury just now made Hawkeye's chest feel like he was shaking. Is it that much different? Eagle Eye looks ugly. He has always wanted to see what the world's most powerful force has reached. Advertisement never expected it. He is actually so much stronger than himself. He reluctantly raised his sword to block, and with a bang, Hidoe and Kong Yunki collided. After a brief stalemate, Hidoe was being pressed down bit by Kong Yunki. Then there was a puff. Kong Yunki directly cut off Hawkeye's arm. Whitebeard is killing like crazy. Then he carried Kong Yunki and rushed towards the special marine who had destroyed the great Maelstrom spider pirates. He wanted to avenge all his sons. If he kills Beast's arm, he will kill Hawkeye's arm. If he kills the Vortex Spider, he will make these marines pay the same price. Kizaru, what are you doing so stupidly? Go and stop Whitebeard. Ron slapped the chair and yelled at Kizaru, this guy is actually wandering around here. The entire battlefield was frightened by Whitebeard's crazy mode. Under the rage, Whitebeard's combat power was so high that he was no longer on the same level as everyone present. The strongest man really lives up to his reputation. Even if he is also a 4 emperors, his strength is higher than the other 3-4 emperors. Kizaru was shocked, remembering that Ron was still supervising the battle, and he did not dare to continue to disobey Ron's orders. He didn't care about Whitebeard's strength at the moment. It turned directly into a stream of light, and the entire body turned into a yellow arrow. Concentrate and reach the top. This is to concentrate all the attack power of the 8-foot Chong Magatama into one point. To achieve the strongest single attack skill, at that time, he used this move to kill Pluton Rayleigh. In an instant, the golden light was accelerated to ultimate and passed directly towards Whitebeard. HMPH, Flash Kid, Whitebeard turned around and said, he actually caught the yellow arrow. Kizaru was forced to appear, and the position Whitebeard grabbed happened to be Kizaru's shoulder. Pluton Rayleigh on the execution platform couldn't help but gasp. Whitebeard is still as strong as before. Did he find some way to suppress the old wounds in his body? Although Kizaru was caught, he was an admiral after all. His feet turned into golden light and kicked Whitebeard on the chest, borrowing the reaction force to break away from the control. Then he couldn't help but frown and said, no, I can't stop him alone. If one doesn't work, then 3, Ron went straight for a super double. Akainu, Aokiji, you two are going to get Whitebeard directly and end the battle. Ron gave an order. Aokiji and Akainu jumped out of their seats. Attack from both sides. The 2 heavens of ice and fire attacked Whitebeard. Why fight in a one-on-one fight when you can fight in a group? Anyway, Ron has more cards in his hand. 102. Do I look weak? Surrounding behind and sneaking up on Ron, please subscribe. Previous chapter next chapter advertisement, it's Marine San Admiral. Damn it, Marine is so shameless. If you have the guts, just challenge him openly. Since the 3 of us are attacking Dad together. Even if we win like this, it will be disgraceful. It's a shame that you, Marine, actually adopted such a disgraceful method to win. That's right, if you have the guts to do it one by one, don't you dare. When 3 Marine Admirals came to Whitebeard, the surrounding soldiers of the Whitebeard pirates immediately began to mock. These are 3 Marine Admirals. No one has ever beaten 3 Marine Admirals at the same time, right? The battle between strong men on the sea is all about one-on-one. Only in this way can we have the demeanor of a strong man, and only in this way can we be fair. Only in this way can you be respected by others. However, this time, Marine dispatched 3 Marine Admirals to attack Whitebeard. These pirates are also smart people. At this time, they want to use the pressure of public opinion to discuss Marine. Destroy their morale, forcing them into one-on-one combat mode. These pirates have followed Whitebeard for many years. Of course they know how powerful his father is. If one-on-one, no one can beat Dad, as expected. The Marine soldier on the other side was a little embarrassed by the pirate. This is indeed unfair. After all, it's 3 against 1, so even if they win, it won't sound good. Even Akainu and Aokiji's faces darkened. Just now he jumped down from the high platform menacingly. But at this moment, after hearing these words, his arrogance also disappeared a bit. For strong men like them, this is indeed a bit embarrassing. 3 against 1, it doesn't sound good if word spreads out. But Kizaru is a very thick-skinned guy, don't care at all what the other person says. With his chin tilted and his mouth pouted, these words completely fell on deaf ears. Don't take it to heart at all. This is probably the only good thing about this guy. Ron couldn't help but smile at this moment. It seems that these pirates are not too stupid, and they actually know how to attack the heart first. This time he planned to use this method to demoralize Marine. But with me here, can they succeed? So Ron slapped the chair hard. Shouted loudly, Marine's mission is to destroy pirates. This is justice for Marine. What kind of morality can we talk to pirates? Concentrate all our efforts to eliminate them as quickly as possible, and then go home for dinner. This is what we as Marines should consider. Fairness is important when there are few people. We have 10 times the strength of the pirates. Once the guns are drawn, we are damn fair. Ron's tone became higher and higher, his voice thick and distant. Echoed throughout the battlefield, very sonorous and powerful. Advertisement like a drum of encouragement, it spreads to every corner. Let all the Marines hear it. That's right, how can we be fair to them when we have a large number of people? Just F*K him and that's it. Fair? You will all die, this is fair to you. All the Marines chanted in unison. The morale that had just been suppressed was directly boosted by Ron's 2 words. Even higher than before, the cry was like thunder, resounding through many people in Ma Lin. Fair? Fairness be damned. Does fighting need to be fair? Then the outcome will be determined by rock, paper, scissors. What's more, our military strength is 10 times that of yours, are you fair to us? Just do it and it's done. Whitebeard couldn't help but look up at Ron above. This guy, at such a young age, is so difficult to deal with. Before, Whitebeard was still glad that Sengoku was not in command. Without the resourceful general to make suggestions, the chance of winning Marin Fando would be greater. But I just found out now. This bald man is more troublesome and too difficult to deal with. It is better for Sengoku to come. Now, Whitebeard gave Diamond George a subtle wink. This was the tactic they had discussed before. Let Whitebeard hold down Marine 3 Admiral here, so that there is no defense in front of the Inspector General. With the few CP9s behind him, they can't stop Diamond George. The ultimate goal of this plan is for Diamond George to sneak up on Ron without knowing it. Capture him and trade him for Ace, or use him as a hostage to escape Marine smoothly. Based on this guy's various performances on the battlefield, they have deduced that his identity is definitely not simple. What are you waiting for? How about a blind date? Why don't you give me a quick victory? Ron looked at the 3 Marine Admirals, standing there looking at Whitebeard. His tone turned cold now. The voice was full of warning and intimidation, sending a chill down the backs of Kizaru and Akainu. Don't dare to neglect me anymore. They are all people who have been praised by Ron. So of course I don't want to get beaten up again. Then, these 2 men were the first to attack. Kizaru immediately jumped into the air. Hold out 2 fingers. Into Whitebeard's eyes, a strong light instantly emitted. Directly causing temporary blindness. Even Whitebeard couldn't help but close his eyes and blocked it with his hand. The light was so dazzling, it was like shining a bright light into your eyes. Kizaru's purpose is to buy this little time, immediately afterwards. Akainu started to move. The entire right half of his body turned into magma. Shave. The whole figure suddenly rushed out. Advertisement. Dark Hound. Akainu also used his single target skill and punched Whitebeard directly. At this moment, Whitebeard is temporarily blinded, which is definitely the best time to attack. However, at this moment Whitebeard also has observation haki. Already had a premonition that the attack was coming. Immediately turned sideways to avoid. At this time Aokiji appeared directly from behind. Ice Age. 2 icicles shuttled directly to Whitebeard's feet. For an instant, Whitebeard's legs and the ground were frozen together. The ice is still growing and spreading. In just the blink of an eye, half of Whitebeard's body was frozen. Now, he has lost the ability to move, was fixed in place. Aokiji and Kizaru are both cooperating with Akainu's attack. After all, he is the devil fruit with the most powerful attacks. Sure enough, it's still difficult for the 3 brats to deal with him. Gu la 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 la. At this moment, Whitebeard suddenly laughed loudly. Don't forget, I'm Shockfruit, ice can't freeze me. Just for a moment, violent vibrations came from Whitebeard. Spread suddenly. The ice surrounding Whitebeard broke instantly. It was actually shaken into powder in the air, floating in the air. Whitebeard, who regained the ability to move, turned slightly sideways. At the critical moment, finally escaped Akainu's Dark Hound. But, the left half of his beard was completely burned off, and his cheek was severely injured. Fortunately, he hid quickly, otherwise, not only his beard would be burned this time. Whitebeard's eyes flashed fiercely, and the corners of his mouth raised slightly. Asterisk 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 asterisk, your attack is over, now it's my turn. Then, he turned his body 180 degrees and turned around to grab it. He grabbed Akainu's wrist that had just brushed against his cheek. Magma Imp. It's rare to meet someone as strong as you, but it's a pity that it's not even close. Whitebeard had already grabbed Akainu's wrist, and then threw him upwards. Akainu flew directly into the air, and right now. Whitebeard bows and charges up. A shockwave visible to the naked eye appeared on Whitebeard's left fist. 2 rays of light flashed across Whitebeard's eyes. A rare serious gesture. Veins popped up on his hands, and violent vibrations ripped through the air around him through his fists. Whitebeard suddenly hit Akainu's waist in midair. In an instant, advertisement Akainu's entire body seemed to be torn apart. Along with the air, huge cracks appeared where it was hit. It spread in an instant, and half of the sky was in this state of collapse. Centered on the ground under Whitebeard's feet, a bottomless ravine spread to both sides. The huge shock almost split the entire island into 2. The entire island shook violently, constantly shaking. Many people failed to stand firm and fell to the ground. Whitebeard's full blow. So scary. Akainu vomited a mouthful of blood and felt as if his internal organs were shattered. The huge shock made him feel a little confused now. At this time, Kizaru didn't know when he had arrived next to Whitebeard. Hey, but, you are also careless. Taking advantage of Whitebeard's brief pause after charging up to attack Akainu. Kizaru's fingers suddenly touched Whitebeard's shoulders. This is the only area where Whitebeard's defenses are weak. The next moment, crisscross lights burst out from the fingers. Accumulation is complete. As soon as Kizaru finished speaking, he shot out like a laser gun. Peefed. A column of blood spurted out from Whitebeard's shoulder. The yellow laser penetrated Whitebeard's shoulder directly. Shot to the ground. With a roar, the entire earth collapsed into a deep hole more than 10 meters wide. Kid, this little injury is of no use. Whitebeard frowned, drew out the Kongyan and swept it across. Kizaru immediately turned into a stream of light, scattered in all directions, and survived the attack. Hey, if the blood is frozen, can it be unlocked through vibration? When Whitebeard's blood spurts from his shoulders. Aokiji has been waiting in this direction for a long time. He believed that Kizaru would succeed. Aokiji stretched out a finger and poked it into the pillar of blood that spattered out. Said to Whitebeard. At this moment, Whitebeard's expression finally changed drastically. Not good. It turns out that the first 2 rounds of attacks were assists, but the real killer move came from Aokiji. Whitebeard made a mistake. He originally thought Akainu and Kizaru should be the main attacker. But now I discovered that both of them were assists, and the real attacker turned out to be Aokiji. 3. Admiral has great coordination. They actually completed a cover attack with such a high degree of tacit understanding without any communication. At this time, pillars of blood began to freeze where Aokiji's fingers touched. The freezing spread along the blood and reached Whitebeard's shoulder in an instant. He is going to directly freeze the blood in Whitebeard's body. Wonderful. Even Ron couldn't help but applaud at this moment. 103. Ron takes action and solves the crisis of overwhelming power with just one punch. Previous chapter next chapter advertisement bang bang bang. Ron, who was sitting in the highest position, couldn't help but applaud. This battle is really exciting, as expected of Marine Admiral. He is indeed the strongest man in the world. This evenly matched battle is really comfortable to watch. Have to say, the whole battle really gives people a hearty and smooth feeling. There is a battle of wits and a competition of strength. This is the battle of the top experts. Not only that. Everyone present took a breath. He couldn't help but make a sound of horror. Some people even dared not breathe, staring intently at the battle. Although it was only a few rounds, but it includes the dealings between Whitebeard and the 3 admirals. At this moment, Whitebeard's expression was extremely ugly. He could no longer dodge this move. If you really let this ice flow along the bloodstream and pass into your body, then he will definitely die, if the whole blood is frozen. Whitebeard didn't believe he could live anymore, because the reason inside his body couldn't be shattered. Otherwise, the entire blood vessel will burst. The reason why the ice outside the body surface can be directly shattered with shock fruit. It's all because of Whitebeard's amazing physical defense. Therefore, direct vibration of 850 will not cause any damage to the body surface. But it's different inside the body. Everyone's body is very fragile. If the blood vessels are frozen into ice cubes, then the entire blood vessels will collapse directly with a slight shock. This is tantamount to suicide. So, once this Aokiji kid really freezes his blood vessels, it will really be over. Whitebeard sighed again. It is really the waves behind the Yangtze River that push the waves ahead. I didn't expect that today's younger generation is so powerful. These 3 guys work really well together. It was really worthy of his praise. I have to say that with the cooperation of 3 people, this move is already a sure kill. There is simply no room for redemption. The cooperation is really great and seamless. Is that the end? Whitebeard said somewhat unwillingly, however. Right now. Advertisement suddenly, a strong wind roared past. Just like wind style, it hit Aokiji directly, instantly interrupting Aokiji's skills. Blows Aokiji far away. Who? Aokiji couldn't help but change his expression. Kizaru also immediately entered a defensive posture. The enemy could not be seen to the left or right. Who actually launched the attack? At this moment, they used observation hockey to feel something suddenly coming down from the sky. Look up. Sure enough, they found that several pirate ships were smashed down from the sky. Not good. Spread. Akainu suddenly growled. Because I was so focused on playing just now, I didn't even notice when these ships flew above my head. What happened? Now, Dolog is standing on the big ship in the sky. His ability to control the wind directly blew these ships above the clouds, and then from the sky, using the cover of the clouds, he escaped from everyone's sight and came to the top of everyone. Originally, Dorag didn't want to be exposed so early. But there is no way, if we don't take action again. Then Whitebeard must die. He had already discovered this critical opportunity just now. If he didn't take action to save Whitebeard, he would be saved. Whitebeard had no way to dodge the attack just now. Although there is no relationship between Dorag and Whitebeard. But he knew very well that Whitebeard must not die first in this battle. If not, the Whitebeard pirates will be defeated instantly. Without such a big help, he would not be able to rescue Bartholomew Kuma from so many Marines. So no matter what the purpose is, he needs the Whitebeard pirates to contain Marine. So he must not allow the Whitebeard pirates to die here. As soon as Dolog arrived here, he directly launched a terrifying attack. He wants to use his more than 10 pirate ships to fall from 1,000 meters high and smash the entire Marin Plaza to pieces. As for the people on their ship, they have naturally thought of a solution. Among them, there is an army commander who can transform into countless crow clones. Now, all members of the Revolutionary Army have stood on top of the crow. But now, these boats are empty. It's full of explosives. If it lands, a chain explosion will occur. This power can almost instantly wipe out the Marine soldiers in the entire square. I have to say that Dorag is really smart and good at fighting. Can use limited troops to cause unlimited casualties. To achieve the effect of winning more with less, advertisement. He wants to use these thousands of revolutionary troops to annihilate 100,000 Marines. Looking at the sky like dumplings falling, more than a dozen giant warships are getting faster and faster, rubbing against the air and making a buzzing sound. Extraordinarily harsh, it's about to fall down. There were too many, and they were all filled with explosives. There is no way to intercept it midway. What to do? Akainu was so anxious that he wanted to use Meteor Volcano to destroy them all in midair. But, he used observation hockey and felt that there were too many explosives in it. The boat is full, and his lava can ignite these explosives in an instant. Even the debris and impact force generated by the explosion of these explosives in the air could kill all the Marine King soldiers in the square. Damn Revolutionary Army, Akainu snorted. He had recognized these as revolutionary troops. It seems that they released such bold explosives based on their own abilities. Now there is no way to smash all these warships from midair to Vice Admiral. But how can you stop them from falling? They don't have the ability of lion fruit. Dolog couldn't help but smile. Their intelligence had always been very good. It has long been known that Marine does not have devil fruit related abilities, so they have no way to stop these bomb ships falling from the sky. Once these ships land, they will explode in a chain of explosions, and the entire Marin Plaza will turn into a sea of fire. Then they can easily save everyone they want to save. Dorag has always been a person with plans, so naturally he couldn't come over without preparing anything. This time he had already calculated that no one in Marine could stop this. Seeing that the situation was not good, Sengoku immediately ordered. Everyone took refuge in the nearest fortification. The situation is too urgent, the ship is about to land. At this moment, the ships in the sky were constantly dilating in the pupils of the Marine soldiers below. More than 10 large ships were grouped together, covering the sky and the sun, turning the entire Marine fort into darkness. However, at this time, Ron moved his wrist and stood up. No need to let them retreat, Ron ordered to Sengoku. If you don't retreat, why don't you stay there and wait for death? Sengoku was very anxious, this is no joke. Looking at Ron with an uneasy expression, I saw Ron taking a few steps forward and looking at the huge ship falling from the sky. Move your shoulders. I was a little dissatisfied with Dolag's approach. I didn't expect that I would need to take action in the end. Then he lightly waved his fist in that direction. An ordinary punch. In an instant, a huge blast of wind pressure shot out directly from Ron's fist. In an instant, the entire air became distorted. The shockwave visible to the naked eye broke the sound barrier, streaked across the sky, and instantly covered all the pirate ships in the sky. Boom. Advertisement: all the ships were covered by the shockwave, and there was no way to carry this force. Almost at the same time, they exploded. The blazing fire covered the sky and blocked out the sun. But the huge shockwave drove the power of the explosion and rushed directly into the distance. None of the aftermath of the explosion spread out. He was directly carried away by this impact. No, it should be said that he was directly carried away by this fist wind. This scene instantly shocked everyone present. At this moment, they all raised their heads and looked at the bald Inspector General in disbelief. Many people were frightened when they saw Ron take action for the first time. This guy looks ordinary, but he is so powerful. This is an attack that leaves everyone helpless. It was unexpectedly resolved so easily by this guy. Just one punch. However, at this moment, the most shocking thing is that Diamond George, the leader of the Whitebeard Pirates team, has arrived at Ron's side and is preparing to attack Ron. He was only 20 meters away from Ron at the moment. At his speed, it's entirely possible to launch a raid. He originally thought that Ron didn't notice him at all, and that he was favored by God and allowed him to successfully arrest the Inspector General. But just when he was about to take action, suddenly seeing this guy, he stood up and punched all the more than 10 giant ships in the sky. Diamond. At this moment George took a breath. No one saw this punch more clearly than him. Because he had already lurked near Ron, only 20 meters away from Ron, it could be said that he watched Ling Huan's 10 punches at the closest distance from the first perspective. It's really terrible, he didn't try his best at all. It was as if all the air around him had been sucked out just now. 0.5 Diamond's George even felt that for a moment he couldn't breathe. My heart almost stopped. Diamond George had never seen Ron take action before, but judging from Ron's image, this guy shouldn't be very powerful. Because he is too much like a spoiled young man. Whether it's the way he's dressed or the way he looks like an aristocrat at first glance. This is also the main reason why Diamond George judged Ron not to be great at first impression. Just at this time, Ron turned his head, looked at Diamond George. Being able to bypass all the Marines and rush to the highest command platform is quite capable. Oh, who gave you the courage to sneak around and attack me? You don't think I'm weak, do you? He said in a very calm tone. Hear this. Diamond George took a breath and felt extremely cold, with cold sweat on his neck. The sneak attack failed. Lucci, take him down. Ron had no time to pay attention to him and ordered casually. The Revolutionary Army stepped on the crow and landed at the same time. At this moment, Luffy shouted excitedly, Ace, I'm here to save you. This shout, Garp Kizaru couldn't help but tremble, and then the two looked at each other. What was supposed to come came. You and I should each rely on our acting skills. 104. Luffy and his son charged at the execution platform guarded by Garp. Previous chapter. Next chapter advertisement now. Lucci has already taken orders to start a fight with Diamond George. Have to say, Diamond George's ability is really too powerful for melee fighters. Especially for a taijutsu school like Lucci. Even if one has mastered the 7 successful power of flowing water-breaking rock fist, he cannot cut a diamond. The two started fighting on the highest podium. They fought back and forth several times, but neither side gained much of an advantage. But this made Diamond George feel a little weird. When did you become so powerful? This is not the true strength of CP9 at all. Diamond Kaiji knows what kind of people they are. Why do you feel like these people are so difficult to deal with now? Lucci said coldly. Your ability is really troublesome. If it weren't for the diamond, you would have lost. In terms of physical skills and combat skills, Lucci at this moment is far superior to Diamond George. What are you doing standing there in a daze? If you can't beat them in a single fight, let's fight in a group. Do you still want me to teach you this? Ron was sitting in the nano chair, not even looking in this direction. He just waved his hand in this direction and said casually. Yes. The other 5 CP9s behind him immediately nodded, shave. He disappeared in an instant and immediately joined the team attacking Diamond and George. Behind Ron, only Stussy and Tashigi were left standing on either side. Diamond George has a hard time beating a Lucci, and he would have lost if it wasn't for his fruit ability. But now 5 more came at once. Although his strength is not as good as Lucci's, he has at least the 5 definite flowing water rock shattering fist. After several encounters, Diamond George couldn't resist at all and was defeated directly. Subdued by Lucci and Garp. Kill? Wait a minute, his fruit ability is useful, keep it for now. Ron waved his hand. Later, Ron took out the feng shui compass. I directly found Blackbeard's location, and sure enough they were rushing towards Mlinfondo, which was 10 kilometers away. Then he said to CP9, Lucci, Kaku, Bluno, Stussy, the 4 of you go and guard the west port. Blackbeard will log in from there later. At this moment, Whitebeard looked at this scene on the highest podium. He couldn't help but frown. It seems that the sneak attack over there failed. I originally thought that by attracting the 3 admirals' attacks, Diamond George could at least capture the bald Inspector General. But this trick also failed. I didn't expect the CP9s behind the Inspector General to be so powerful. The strength has even surpassed that of CPO. There were 3 contests between him and Marine, and he lost in all of them. Advertisement: the opponent's layout and strength are far superior to this side. Whitebeard side. There is nothing that can be done about it. Even Diamond George can defeat those CP9s. But there was no way to catch Ron. Before, it was because I never understood Ron's strength. After all, I had never seen him take action. But, just now, Whitebeard saw him knocking away all the bomb ships in the air with one punch. Already understood. Diamond, even if George can defeat these CP9s, he is still no match for Ron. The difference in strength is really too big, now. Ace, who was on the execution platform, heard Luffy's shouts and couldn't help but start to respond. Luffy, go back quickly, don't come over. Garp, who was sitting aside, sighed helplessly. You two know how to cause trouble for me. Now you know how much trouble you have caused, right? I asked you to listen to me and become a good Marine soldier, but you didn't listen. If first become a Marine soldier, I can still protect you. What can I do now? Ace said helplessly, old man, we must protect Luffy and never let him fall into Marine's hands. This Inspector General is different from other Marines. If Luffy falls into his hands, I'm afraid he will end up like me. Ace said helplessly that he met the Inspector General at sea, so he was caught and executed here. He didn't want Luffy to follow in his footsteps. Garp sighed and said nothing. Of course he didn't want his grandson to reach this point. This is also the main reason why he was fired and returned to the battlefield. If he doesn't come here, who can protect his grandson? He can only rest assured if he personally sits here. However, it is very difficult to face the fierce eyes of the Inspector General. Thousands of crows flying in the sky slowly fell to the ground. Put down all the revolutionary troops above, for a moment. Whitebeard's numerical disadvantage was made up for. These people are different from pirates. They are all revolutionary troops who specialize in fighting with troops. What he is good at is this kind of large-scale combat. It's different from the pirates' petty fights. This is their home court. Dorag has landed next to Whitebeard. Oh, is he the Garp kid? Did you save me just now? Whitebeard stood Kong Yunki on the ground. His tone was full of majesty, and he said in a deep voice. Dorag nodded, and he wore a cape with a hat. The wind whistled all around. Dorag's face was solemn, even if he was standing with the strongest man in the world. In terms of momentum, he did not fall behind at all. As the leader of the Revolutionary Army, he is the most feared man in the world. Advertisement standing there, the feeling of oppression brought by the whole person is no less than that of Whitebeard. At this moment, the two people stood side by side. It seems that he can overwhelm 100,000 Marines in terms of momentum. Yes, I think we need to cooperate. You're taking Ace, I'm taking Bartholomew Kuma. Dorag spoke very slowly and deeply. When Whitebeard heard this, he couldn't help but look up at Bartholomew Kuma and Ace on the execution table. Then nodded, I'm also taking away Diamond George and Marco. Who you want to take away is your business, but now there's a problem, we must cooperate. That is to rush to the execution stand. Hearing this, Whitebeard couldn't help but frowned. Rushing to the execution stand was more complicated than he thought. As this battle continues, Whitebeard becomes less and less confident. Garp is guarding there. Even if we break through the 3 admirals' defenses, it may not be easy to save people from that old guy. What can you do? Whitebeard said in a deep voice. Dorag said very confidently, leave it to me, old man Garp. You are responsible for stopping Marine 3 Admiral. You saw the battle just now. With my current physical condition, there is no way I can stop these 3 people. Whitebeard's words are a bit old, and there is a sense of helplessness of a hero in his twilight years. He is no longer in peak condition and is barely holding on to his body at this moment. It is impossible to contain the 3 major forces from joining forces to attack. Unexpectedly, Dorag had already expected this. I know, so I brought you someone. Dorag waved, then Ivankov stepped forward. He is a cadre of the Revolutionary Army. His devil fruit can stimulate people's potential in a short period of time and return the body to its peak state. Ivankov added, no, not only will it return to its peak state, it will even surpass it. It's just that there will be strong side effects, which will overdraw your vitality. Whitebeard heard this, suddenly burst into laughter. Gu la 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 la, that's great, this is exactly what I need right now. Bring it on, have you thought about it? Don't worry, there is no ship to carry me in the new era, so just burn my life here to open up a channel for the Age of Discovery. Whitebeard's eyes suddenly became bright. If he can surpass his peak state, then these 3 brats must be taught a lesson. Dorag nodded. He cast a respectful look on Whitebeard. Soldiers should not die of old age, but should die heroically on the battlefield. Then, Ivankov, the transvestite king, stretched out 4 needles from his hand and inserted them into the waist of Whitebeard Edward Newgate. Advertisement: a steady stream of hormones entered Edward Newgate's body through Ivankov's fingers. seeing that Whitebeard's condition is recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. The whole person's momentum soared. Just now, Dorag's momentum was on par with Whitebeard's, but now, he seemed to be overwhelmed by him. The strongest male 930 is back. This dominating aura can be felt throughout the battlefield. Is this Whitebeard in his prime? What a strong sense of oppression. Thank you very much, you little bitch, I feel good now. Whitebeard's body seems to be stronger than before. The senile look disappeared, and now he looked like an old male. His face was steady, but his eyes were full of murderous intent. As if looking at prey. Young brat from the Garp family, these 3 Marine Admirals were given to me. I'll leave the matters on the execution platform to you. Whitebeard said in a voice like a bell. You can tell from the thickness of his voice that Whitebeard is really at his peak at this moment. At this time, Ron, who was sitting on the highest execution platform, suddenly laughed. Why don't you say hello when you come? Garp, your tutoring isn't very good either, your son doesn't look very well educated. Garp's old face darkened. Dorag, you brat, who asked you to come here? What a surprise, how dare you come to fight lousy? Get Luffy out of here quickly, Garp said angrily. Upon hearing this, Luffy shouted to Garp. Huh? Garp, what did you say? Watch where you stand. What you have to do now is not to let them take Luffy out of here, but to keep them all here. I don't want to see anything wrong anytime soon. Remember, I'm keeping an eye on you here. If you dare to let go, you know the consequences. Ron said with a somewhat unhappy expression. Garp nodded repeatedly, pretending to be at odds with the pirate Luffy. Dorag said to the army commander, follow Luffy, clear his path, and escort him to the execution platform. The words just fell. Luffy rushed out immediately. Thousands of revolutionary troops opened the way left and right. And at this moment, Ron also pointed forward, kill them. After receiving the order, the angry Marine shouted and rushed forward quickly. 105. Garp punches his son hard. What about the promised fatherly love? Previous chapter next chapter advertisement. The Revolutionary Army is different from the pirates. They are a genuine combat army. Especially good at this kind of large-scale national war. He is also very experienced in facing Marine, and there are a lot of them, so they can handle this kind of large battlefield with ease. At this moment, tens of thousands of revolutionary troops rushed towards the execution platform at Marine headquarters. The commanders of the 4 major armies each led their men to fight in a distributed manner. They did not charge blindly, but were very tactical in their advance. Dorag was directing from behind. The army formed a sharp knife shape and stabbed towards the hinterland of Marine. Clear the way for Luffy. At this moment, Sengoku was standing next to Ron, and he was a little worried. When we made the battle plan before, we didn't take the Revolutionary Army into consideration at all. What should we do now? They're different from these ragtag pirates. And there are so many people, I'm afraid the soldiers in front won't be able to stop us. Sengoku watched the Revolutionary Army continue to advance towards the execution platform, getting closer and closer to the execution platform. I felt a little anxious. Don't worry, you didn't take them into account. What? Did you know they were coming? Yes, we planned to catch them all from the beginning. Ever since Ron asked Kizaru to sneak attack the Revolutionary Army headquarters, he had already thought of using this plan to get rid of all the Revolutionary Army personnel. This is why he decided to execute Bartholomew Kuma as well. Just to attract them all, Sengoku was shocked. Even though he thought he was the resourceful general, he was not as far ahead as the Inspector General thought. Is this guy really just 18 years old? Why does he look so sophisticated? At Ron's order, thousands of Marine soldiers who mastered the second-level flowing water rock breaking fist had already rushed to the front line. A fierce fight broke out with the Revolutionary Army at the front. The current Marine soldiers are stronger than the Revolutionary Army in terms of speed and strength. This prevented the Revolutionary Army from advancing forward for a while. But this is not a lasting solution. The flag-waving female captain of the Revolutionary Army. Bellow, captain of the Eastern Army. Every time you wave the flag and shout, you can greatly increase the combat effectiveness of your own soldiers. The amplification effect is quite terrifying. It seemed that the Special Marines were somewhat unable to stop him. Moving forward faster and faster. This is what Sengoku is worried about. If this continues, these well-trained revolutionary troops will be able to rush into the execution platform in less than 10 minutes. Next, the show will begin. Ron looked down from the command podium and had an unobstructed view of all the battlefields. All the revolutionary troops were seen rushing into the square. Ron shouted loudly. Come out, advertisement. Ron patted the chair gently. This made Sengoku, who was standing aside, stunned. What is this guy, the Inspector General, talking about? Why can't you understand it at all? Who did he ask to come out? Aren't the entire Marine forces already here? If you want to catch them all, you have to get them all in the net first. Ron raised the corners of his mouth and smiled. Then, Sengoku was in a confused state. Suddenly, a door opened directly behind the battlefield. Just appeared out of thin air in the air, in an instant. Thousands of black-clad soldiers jumped directly to the rear of the Revolutionary Army. They formed a double team with the Marine soldiers in front and made dumplings for the Revolutionary Army in the middle. Suddenly, the whole scene changed drastically. This unexpected force directly changed the situation on the entire battlefield. Originally, the Revolutionary Army charged forward like fire and water, without even considering whether the rear was safe. Because there are people behind him, and they have already seen Marine, who is clearly in front, there's no way there is anyone behind him. But suddenly, a door opened in the air behind them, and a large number of men in black jumped down from it. These men in black were armed with firearms and began to attack them from behind. It caught them off guard and caused them heavy losses in a short time. This time, these revolutionary troops were surrounded from front to back. Enemy from both sides. Their combat effectiveness was greatly reduced in an instant, and the progress of the charge slowed down instantly. Because now they not only have to deal with the enemies in front, but also send troops to deal with those behind. Dorag suddenly frowned, incredibly said, Sabo, didn't the information you gave me say that all their marines are already here? How could so many people come out again? Sabo also shook his head in confusion. Before the Revolutionary Army is dispatched, they will first investigate all the enemy's intelligence. Only in this way can we know ourselves and our enemies and be victorious in every battle. They never act unprepared. Before coming this time, they had already investigated all the marine forces. After careful confirmation, there was no ambush and they were all here. That's why they so confidently and boldly mobilized all the revolutionary troops and launched a charge without reservation. Because the enemies are right under his nose, he doesn't believe they have any other tactics. However, what Dorag didn't expect was that the other party could actually deploy another group of troops to surround them. He actually lost tactically, and they actually deliberately leaked information about the distribution of marine soldiers, just to make us carelessly think that all of them are here. This makes it easier for them to arrange a backhand to ambush us. Where did these people come from? Where did this bald person come from? Wait, are they government troops? Dorag's expression changed. At this moment, Sengoku's expression also changed drastically. Advertisement watching this scene in disbelief. Where did so many people come from? He is Marine Marshal, and of course he knows that all Marines are here today. All registered Marines, without exception today, have been ready for battle since the morning. This was verified by Sengoku just this morning. In order to confirm that all Marine combat capabilities are present, before such an important battle, they will check whether there are any missing personnel. But obviously all the Marine soldiers are here today. So who are these thousands of people who suddenly jumped out from behind? Sengoku looked at the black clothes they were wearing. A sudden realization dawned on me, it's government troops. Sengoku couldn't help but speak out. You mobilized government troops? Aren't they guarding Marijoy? How could you mobilize them? Sengoku was stunned. This government force is to protect Marijoy and has extremely high combat effectiveness. They have received the same training as CP9 since childhood. The most outstanding people are selected to serve as CP9, and the rest join the government army. That's right, the government troops guarding Marijoy. Ron said nonchalantly, how did you transfer them from Marijoy? Even if it was ordered by the 5 elders, they would not be able to leave Marijoy. The mission of these government troops is to defend Marijoy and never leave. Ron patted Sengoku on the shoulder and said, don't be nervous Sengoku, I still have the power to mobilize them. Sengoku's old face darkened. Believe me, even the 5 elders can move them away from Marijoy. How could you possibly have it? Could it be that you are still a relative of I am? This is equivalent to transferring the Emperor's Imperial Army to the border to fight, isn't this nonsense? Ron ignored Sengoku's confused look. Order Blueno to leave here, and let him continue to the port to deal with the next Blackbeard. Just now, he borrowed his ability to accurately launch thousands of government troops onto the battlefield in an instant. Soon, the Revolutionary Army, which was attacked from both sides, was instantly in chaos. The casualties were becoming increasingly severe. Dorag's face darkened. I didn't expect that I would be plotted by this kid. This guy was planning to lead us into a siege from the very beginning. He wanted to completely annihilate us. What a strong ambition. I underestimated him. Whitebeard on the side has just adapted to his body returning to its peak state. Then he said in a deep voice, don't underestimate him, I just suffered this loss. The 3 previous confrontations with him all ended in failure. Dorag had a sullen face. This was the first time he had lost tactically. Advertisement, I didn't expect that I had lost twice. I thought that the bomb ship at the beginning, even if it couldn't completely wipe out the Marine, could still cause them to lose 90% of their troops. I didn't expect that he punched them away, and in the end there were not even any ants hurt. This time he plotted against us again, and all the revolutionary troops were surrounded. Dolog suddenly glared at Ron on the podium. Ron looked down at Dorag from above and gave a meaningful smile. Looks like I need to do it myself, there's no point in continuing to sit in the rear. Dorag's expression was extremely serious. Then, a strong wind came up. Dorag flew up directly. Ignore Luffy for now, rush over first to see if you can get past the Garp and rescue the people. After all, he is his father and son. They just need to express their feelings for each other. They won't be serious about it. They should also keep a hand, Jiao Li Jiao, so they can't be too serious. Dolag's speed was extremely fast, and his whole body was wrapped in the whirlwind. Flying over everyone's heads, heading straight for Garp. At this moment, Garp stood next to Ace with his arms crossed. While worrying about Luffy's safety, he looked at Dorag flying over. Garp was furious. If his unscrupulous son hadn't acted recklessly, how could his lovely grandson have fallen into such danger? I'm so angry. The more Garp thought about it, the angrier he became. He didn't know how Dorag became a father and brought his son to such a dangerous place. What should I do if I hurt my lovely grandson, at this time? Ron shouted softly to Garp. Garp, stop him. Garp is furious, shout loudly. That's exactly what I meant. Next moment, Garp jumped up and flew up, the fist was fully charged in an instant, and it punched Dolog who was rushing over. How dare you rush over here? I'm so angry that I want to teach you a lesson. Bang. Dorag was directly knocked to the ground. Confused. Where's this old man's promised fatherly love? I regard you as my biological father, and I will be merciful. You treat me as your adopted son, Iron Fist of Justice. Verification completed. It seems that it is impossible to break through on your own, you still need Luffy. 106. Kizaru. Why did Luffy roll to my feet? Where to kick? Previous chapter next chapter advertisement, Dorag, are you okay? Yuinkov immediately stepped forward and asked. He saw with his own eyes that just before, Garp punched Marco, who was not a bird, to the point of death. That's the Phantom Beast, the Phoenix Devil Fruit. Zone Devil Fruit itself can withstand beatings and has a relatively strong recovery ability. It is not a Phantom Beast in the form of a bird, so it is even better on this basis. However, I'm still lying there and haven't woken up. It can be seen how powerful Garp's punch is. Dorag stood up and said calmly. It's okay, I used Hockey to defend in advance. The old man really didn't hold back at all, he attacked with all his strength. After all, Dorag's strength is much stronger than Marco's. The same punch will cause different damage. Ivankov said worriedly, isn't he your father? If he doesn't show mercy to you, can Luffy go up? As for Luffy, it's no problem, the old man loves him very much. I see that you were seriously injured, do I need to give you a shot? Need not. Whitebeard, who saw this, he couldn't help but frown. It seems that things are not that simple. Garp's defense is really not easy to break. I didn't expect that this old man would even beat his own son. It's really too much. Whitebeard Edward Newgate paid great attention to family relationships. This is also the reason why he has kept so many sons. Your son should be forgiven if he makes a mistake. How could it be possible to hit him? In Whitebeard's view, nothing is more important than family ties. No matter what, he would not do anything to his son. Even if his son hurt him, he would not do anything to his son. So Whitebeard was very angry when he saw Garp's behavior. But he also knew that this was not his battlefield. He now had to hold off 3 Marine Admirals, thinking of 880 here. Whitebeard flexed his muscles. Where are those 3 little guys? I'll meet you again. At this moment, he has returned to his peak condition. The whole person's aura was extremely oppressive. The air around him can vibrate when he speaks. The buildings in the distance were actually shaken and cracked. This is just the power of her words. There is no doubt that it is the effect of Shockfruit's awakening. Previously, Whitebeard was unable to control this ruthless power due to physical problems, old age and injuries. Therefore, it has not been used in previous battles. Advertisement, but now, with Ivankov's hormones, he can briefly gain power beyond his peak. Using the ability of Fruit Awakening is also more convenient. Almost instantly, the entire momentum reached its peak. It immediately attracted everyone's attention. A truly strong person is one who can always be the focus of the battlefield. Whitebeard's state made everyone feel baffled. Why does it feel like his condition has improved so much? What did the Revolutionary Army do to him just now? Hey, this old guy has strengthened again. How to fight this? Kizaru touched his chin and said with a sly look on his face. It's not good. Our cooperation didn't kill him directly last time. I'm afraid he will be wary of us this time. It's not feasible to rely on the same method. Aokiji said very seriously. Ahem, damn it, the injury inside my body is a bit serious. I'm afraid I won't be able to exert my full strength. Akainu stood up and coughed twice, with blood flowing from the corner of his mouth, and said in a weak voice. As a feint before, he single-handedly took all the damage from Whitebeard. Only then did Kizaru and Aokiji succeed. They thought they could deal with Whitebeard that time, and then the entire battlefield would be over, and he could slowly recover from his injuries. But he never expected that he was seriously injured by Whitebeard, but instead of dealing with Whitebeard, the Revolutionary Army restored him to a state beyond his peak. Now that I have lost 70% to 80% of my combat effectiveness, what should I do? Is your injury that serious? Then the two of us can handle Whitebeard in this state? Kizaru said with a crooked mouth. Of course it's serious. If you were hit by him with all his strength, give it a try. Akainu glared at Kizaru and said angrily, however, at this moment. Whitebeard jumped up. Holding Kong Yunki in his hand, he made a jumping slash. Holding the knife with both hands, the entire body formed a recurved bow shape. The charge value is 100%, when jumping to the highest altitude. Shock fruit covers the heavy cut and is centered on the blade. Violent shocks and fluctuations spread rapidly. The cracks visible to the naked eye are spreading in the air. Almost instantly it enveloped the entire sky. It was like a spiderweb covering the sky. Viewed from below, the whole sky was cracked. Aokiji, Kizaru, Akainu's expressions changed greatly. At this moment, Whitebeard is not even a bit stronger than before. If Akainu has no fighting ability now, they may not be able to get much benefit based on their strength. Kizaru blocks Whitebeard. Aokiji, bring Akainu here. At this time, Ron on the podium said calmly, Kizaru. Kizaru's old face darkened, and there were 10,000 grass mud horses running wildly in his heart. Advertisement: this Inspector General is definitely targeting himself. It would be better if you let Aokiji block Whitebeard and let me send Akainu there. Why do you let me do this most terrible job? Kizaru was very helpless. But he didn't dare to disobey. Immediately pull out Tiankongyun. Gritted his teeth, use all your strength to block. This is really using the strength to press the bottom of the box, and there is a bang. Whitebeard is from the top down, Kizaru is from the bottom up. The two attacks collided directly, make a roaring sound. The flash produced by the violent impact instantly turned the surrounding area into 10 pieces of white. The huge impact blew on Kizaru's face, even flattening the wrinkles on his face. Suddenly I looked a lot younger. Among the 3 admirals, Kizaru and Akainu are undoubtedly on the same level. Both of them are stronger than Aokiji. After all, BFFB, Kizaru was also called the Monster Rookie along with Akainu when he was young. However, after all, he still couldn't resist, in order to reduce the damage. Kizaru directly turned into a stream of light and dispersed, taking off all the pressure on his body. Move far away and condense into human form again. But the period of time he fought for was enough for Aokiji to bring Akainu to Ron. My arms are numb. This vibration can be transmitted to people's bodies. It's scary. Fortunately, it went away quickly. I'd better hide here for a while. It should be safe here. There won't be any trouble coming, right? Kizaru muttered, looking around and finding that they were all far away from the main battlefield. He had already put enough distance away from Whitebeard and was on the edge of the battlefield. I should be able to hide away for a while and be clean for the time being. I can still fight. Why did you bring me back? Akainu said with a frown. He didn't want to leave the battle at such a critical moment. Ron patted Akainu on the shoulder. Be patient and don't be impatient. Then he looked directly at Whitebeard, who landed on the ground. At this moment, Whitebeard also looked at Ron. Hey, old man Whitebeard, it's not fair that you are the only one who has recovered. You don't mind if I restore my men as well. Whitebeard was stunned. Laugh loudly, Yulalala, if you can do it, then it's up to you. But you have to know that I used Sakazuki with full strength attack before, and his injury will not heal in half a month. Don't think about joining the battlefield anytime soon. I'm afraid your remaining 2 admirals won't be able to stop me. Whitebeard thought Ron was joking. After all, he knew best how badly Akainu was hurt. It's impossible to get better in a short time. Advertisement. However, Ron smiled and said, looking at Akainu, he said calmly. I'll heal your injuries, get some energy, and kill that old man. Akainu was stunned. Can it be cured? But my internal organs are. Akainu hasn't finished speaking yet. I felt a majestic life force coming from the hands on my shoulders. He could feel that the injuries in his body were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Recovery complete. Akainu was shocked. He could feel that the injuries in his body had recovered as before. He never expected that it would happen so quickly. What speed is this? Ron withdrew his hand, and the faint green light gradually disappeared. Healing. Okay, go back to your battlefield. Ron waved. X. Akainu looked confused. The effect of the treatment was too obvious, right? Suppressing his inner surprise, Akainu jumped down from the high platform. In midair, a set of meteor volcano was directly shot. Rushed towards Whitebeard. Aokiji also felt a little surprise. After taking a look at Ron, he immediately followed him. Feeling Akainu's momentum, Whitebeard frowned. He originally thought Ron was just talking casually to save some face. But who would have thought that this guy could really cure Akainu in just a few seconds? What ability is this? But there was no room for him to think too much. Faced with Akainu's attack, even he needed to deal with it seriously. And at the same time, Luffy was running towards the execution platform. The captains of the 4 armies are clearing the way for Luffy. They did not expect that the leader Dorag would also be beaten away. It seems that no one except Luffy can get close to the execution platform. So be sure to escort Luffy safely to the execution platform. This is the key to their victory over everyone. However, at this moment, suddenly a white smoke flew past everyone at high speed. White fist. Luffy exclaimed. Smoking man. When no one around him could react, Smoker's punch flew nearly 100 meters away and hit Luffy in the stomach. He directly knocked Luffy away to Kizaru's feet. Kizaru finally found a place to touch fish, and suddenly felt something flying over. When he lowered his head, he saw that it was Luffy. Kizaru's old face darkened. I was extremely speechless and wanted to say something dirty. Isn't it? I've been hiding so far away. How can this person fly to my feet? I just want to be on the edge, hide away, and don't want to be the center of attention. Can you let me rest for a while? 107. Kicked Luffy into Whitebeard's hands and said he didn't act. Previous chapter next chapter advertisement, damn Smoker. These 4 Revolutionary Army captains never imagined that they could be succeeded by others under their tight protection. They really didn't notice the attack just now, mainly because it's too far. Smoker is very smart. When he is far away, he directly turns his arm into smoke, and then uses a white fist. The entire arm flew directly like a jet for 100 meters, and then Luffy was knocked away. Don't worry about him for now. Go and rescue Luffy quickly. What are you waiting for? At this time, suddenly, a figure fell from the sky and landed on the ground. It was Sabo. He had just arrived at the battlefield, but he didn't expect that he was still a step too late and did not hit Smoker. Several other army commanders originally wanted to deal with Smoker, but when they heard what Sabo said, they immediately changed direction and prepared to rescue Luffy first. Sabo just stared at Smoker, and at the same time, he put his hands in attack posture. And at this time, Ace finally met Sabo on the execution platform. Very excited at the moment, he never expected that Sabo was still alive. Sabo, you're alive, Ace shouted excitedly. Sabo suddenly grinned. Ah, of course, after I rescue you, we will take care of it later. This moment, whether it's Luffy or Sabo, Ace's desire to live was suddenly ignited. He had never imagined living like this. The 2 long-lost brothers were naturally very excited to meet. But, they are pirates. Ron watched the scene. Very silent. This is not a place for the 2 of them to reminisce. If you have to reminisce about the past, so. Ron slapped the chair at this moment, making a muffled sound. Then he said in a deep voice, Smoker, capture Sabo and reunite the 2 brothers. The voice was calm, but the tone was cold. Anyone with a discerning eye can tell what this Inspector General means by reunion. Don't forget that at this time, Ace is on death row. In other words, the reunion is to let the 2 of them go to death together. Suddenly, the soldiers of the Revolutionary Army roared angrily. After all, Sabo is their chief of staff. He's just a major marine. How can he be the opponent of our chief of staff? Advertisement. You are really overestimating your capabilities. Chief of staff, teach him lesson. The surrounding revolutionary troops shouted loudly. They don't think that this major marine can defeat their chief of staff. After all, he is the second in command of the Revolutionary Army. The 4 army commanders did not take this matter to heart at this moment. They were trying their best to save Luffy and did not go to support Sabo, mainly because they thought it was not necessary. If a random marine major comes over and can defeat their chief of staff, then their Revolutionary Army is too ridiculous, right? Yes. Smoker's expression suddenly changed. He immediately became serious. Since it is Ron's order, he must execute it. Smoker is no longer the person he used to be that no one can beat. At this time, he was in neat uniform, quit smoking, had a dignified appearance, and looked like he was born in a guard of honor. After some training, his flowing water rock shattering fist has also reached the 5th level. You're not really going to stop me, are you? The corners of Sabo's mouth raised slightly. Ace was right in front. At this moment, he was even more motivated. As long as all obstacles in front of them are cleared, their brothers can be reunited. As for this major, there is nothing to fear, so the 2 fought directly against each other. Smoker didn't want to disappoint Ron, after all, he was now more than just a Marine Major. And he's also the captain of Ron's main ship, captain of the ancient weapon Pluton. So, he must show his strongest strength, resolve the battle quickly. Both of them have their own beliefs, one is to rescue Ace, and the other doesn't want to let Ron down. The battle between the two is about to break out. Both of them are masters of physical arts. Dragon Fist versus flowing water-breaking Rock Fist. The two figures collided fiercely, and they clashed many times in the air, flashing back and forth. The fierce collision made everyone around them feel extremely shocked. It makes a thumping sound every time. One has a strong attack power, the other has a fast attack speed, and the entire ground is shattered. Within 20 meters of the surrounding area, there is a chaotic airflow. Outsiders cannot get close at all. Once they get close, they will be torn apart by this airflow. But in the end, Smoker is still superior, sees a gap and controls Sabo. Although we barely won after a hard battle, we have made great progress. Not bad, Smoker, your strength has improved rapidly recently. Take him to the execution platform and execute him together with Ace. Ron said with satisfaction. Smoker couldn't help but be overjoyed. It seemed that his efforts were not in vain. He was praised by the Inspector General, and everything was worth it. Garp couldn't help but sigh as he saw Sabo being brought up. I couldn't help but secretly think, not only did these guys fail to rescue Ace when they came here, they also got involved with many people. The Revolutionary Army watched as their chief of staff was defeated and was even escorted to the execution platform. Advertisement at this moment, I couldn't help but take a breath. They cannot accept this reality. The other party is just an ordinary Marine Major. Majors like this can be found in the entire Marine. How could they possibly defeat their chief of staff? I can't accept this reality. Dorag's expression immediately turned cold. Dolog was originally a calm man at all times. But now his mind is in turmoil, because he found that none of the Marine information he got was accurate. In the intelligence, Smoker's strength was rated extremely low, and there was no way he could be Sabo's opponent. Why is the current performance different from the intelligence? Not only that, the combat effectiveness of Marine soldiers and the combat effectiveness of CP9 are all different from what the intelligence shows. Ron seemed to see Dorag's expression, smiled, and then said softly. The Garp kid. Your intelligence is lagging behind. If it were half a month ago, your intelligence would still be somewhat useful, but they will make progress in this half month. The Garp kid? Dorag's old face darkened. He was actually called that by a young man under 20 years old. How irritating, but his mood was indeed corrected by Ron. But Dolog couldn't accept it. Can he be promoted to this level in just half a month? This is impossible. How to do it? Don't be complacent, the fun is yet to come, Dolog said expressionlessly. Ron ignored him. Instead, he looked at Kizaru again. The biggest advantage of sitting on this highest command podium is that you can see every corner of the battlefield. Kizaru is worried now. He has obviously been beaten into a corner by Whitebeard. This location is the best angle for catching fish. There were no enemies around, just ordinary pirates. Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Just make a few gestures here and you will be able to handle the work. But he didn't expect that Luffy would be beaten in front of him. When he was thinking about what to do with Luffy, suddenly, he felt a cold gaze looking at him from behind. Kizaru did not use observation hockey, nor did he look back, but he knew that there must be a pair of eyes looking at him. This is an experience he was often beaten out of. It's over, he was targeted by the Inspector General again. Kizaru broke into a cold sweat. He really wanted to let Luffy go, because he didn't want Luffy to die prematurely here. Because Kizaru knew that Luffy was an Esper in the Nika form of Renren, the ability known as the Sun God. It has a certain connection with his sparkling fruit, so for some specific purposes, he doesn't want Luffy to die. This is part of the reason why he keeps letting go. The rest is due to human nature. Advertisement, however, when conditions permit, the most important thing is not to be noticed by the Inspector General. That is to say, he inadvertently releases water during the battle, or he participates less in battles and touches more fish, and then achieves the purpose of releasing water. 0.0 Don't put it too directly, this is not the case now. Now that Luffy is in front of him, how can he let himself go? You can't be punched away by Luffy, isn't it too fake? Only a fool would be so arrogant, okay, but if not, how can Luffy escape from an admiral? There are little pirates around, so they can't save Luffy, and it's hard to blame them. Kizaru was caught in a dilemma. At this moment, Luffy had stood up and was looking at him. And the Inspector General on the podium was staring at him again. This is how to release water without being discovered. Kizaru's mind was racing. First of all, rule out the possibility of being beaten away by Luffy. After all, this is too fake. No one in their right mind would do this. Kizaru also knows that he is an admiral. It is ridiculous that a little pirate beat the admiral away. Got it. Just then, Kizaru saw Whitebeard fighting Akainu. So Kizaru concentrated on generating wisdom. We meet again, Luffy. Kizaru said with his mouth crooked and his chin glaring. At this moment, Luffy was ready to fight. After all, he was facing Kizaru Admiral, and he did not dare to neglect him at all. However, the two are not the same level at all. No matter how slow Kizaru is, he can still hit Luffy. Kizaru simply didn't slow down and kicked the ground flying. Have you ever been kicked by light? He kicked Luffy directly. A hissing sound. Luffy didn't even have time to resist, and was kicked away by the huge impact. Passing through the dense crowd in the middle, he flew directly into Whitebeard's hands. Even Whitebeard looked confused. Kizaru finally breathed a sigh of relief. Now he was safe. My acting skills are so superb, I won't be discovered, right? I did attack him just now, give him a hard kick, now you don't think I'm letting you go, right? As for him being kicked to Whitebeard, it was purely an accident and had nothing to do with me. However, just as Kizaru was wiping his sweat, suddenly I felt a figure appear behind me. A hand patted his shoulder heavily. Kizaru Harda Gordon. Slowly turning around, he found that the Inspector General had appeared behind him at some point and tapped him on the shoulder. 108. Serious warning, the sea is cracking. One punch to comb the middle part. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Garp on the execution platform was stunned by this kick. How could it be possible to release water like this? This is simply brilliant. Even Garp was thinking if the scene had been reversed and Luffy had rolled to his feet. How should I handle it myself? Garp's idea is that Luffy gets up and knocks himself away. This was the best way he could think of. Garp couldn't help but feel ashamed when he thought of this. It seems that Kizaru's level of letting go is much higher than mine. Not only showed his attack, but also showed his attitude. At the same time, Luffy was allowed to reach the safest place on the battlefield safely. He is simply a master among masters. There is no flaw in this water release. Compared to him, I am simply a master of skill. Garp couldn't help but cast an appreciative look. All I had to do was give Kizaru a thumbs up. Dorag, who was not far away, couldn't help but be a little surprised when he saw this scene. This Kizaru actually knows something. It's not in vain that he and I were once comrades in arms. This can be regarded as selling my personal relationship. Don't worry, I will remember this favor. If I have a chance in the future, I will definitely return it to you. Dolog also looked at Kizaru with gratitude, his eyes seeming to say, "Good brother, you did a great job. I will treat you to a drink after the fight." Kizaru felt guilty at this moment. PT, Sansichi, SD committed again. You can feel the pressure behind you without looking back. Kizaru's old face darkened. Kizaru. Oops, has this been discovered too? My acting skills just now were so perfect that it couldn't have been discovered. How does that just look like an accident? It can only be said that the direction I kicked happened to be followed by Whitebeard. But I didn't hold back at all in my attack. That kick was also very strong. Although I didn't use hockey, it doesn't matter. Kizaru now feels mixed emotions. The brain is working rapidly. I was thinking about how to defend myself for a while. After all, he didn't want to be beaten again in public. Not to mention Kizaru had been beaten before. He had already been beaten once in the Summit War alone. Very shameless. Is it really so obvious to let yourself go? Kizaru couldn't help but look at the eyes of other people around him. Advertisement. When he saw Garp giving him an approving look, he couldn't help but be speechless. Hey, don't look at me like that. Wouldn't you make the Inspector General misunderstand even more by doing this? Turn your head away quickly, Hunden. Kizaru was speechless. What kind of pig teammate is this? You should be extremely angry at this time and be at odds with me. You have to look like an old man beating up your grandson and making you gnash your teeth. Only in this way can I be cleared of suspicion. You looked at me with approval, and you almost gave me a thumbs up, aren't you me? Doesn't it make the Inspector General suspect that I deliberately exposed Luffy? Kizaru was really annoyed by his pig teammate. Ron was right behind him now. If you can feel Garp's gaze, then Ron behind you must be able to feel it too. Kizaru could even feel the eyes behind him getting colder and colder. No, I have to explain quickly. At this time, Kizaru found Dorag looking at him again. Kizaru was even more confused. Hey, what's with this good brother expression of yours? Don't show it at this time. I just told the Inspector General a few days ago that my relationship with you is just an ordinary comrade in arms. It was just that we were soldiers together when we were young. Don't act so enthusiastic. Wouldn't this make the Inspector General misunderstand that I was letting Luffy off for your sake? You should show anger at this time. Anger. Do you understand? It's anger. Instead of looking like I'm going to buy you a drink after get off work. Do you two know how to avoid suspicion? Can you two, father and son, be more reliable? All of them are pig teammates. You want to trick me to death? Kizaru was completely speechless. Now he turned his head with difficulty, looked at Ron, and said with some embarrassment. Inspector General, why are you down here? Oh, come on, don't you know? Ron's tone was serious. Kizaru heard this and said to himself that he wanted to finish. Inspector General, listen to my explanation. Things are not what you think. I just attacked Luffy forcefully. It's just that I made a mistake and didn't predict Whitebeard's position in advance, so I accidentally kicked him there. Ron almost laughed at him. I think it's not that you didn't take a good look at Whitebeard's position, but you looked at it too carefully, right? This place is more than 200 meters away from Whitebeard. There are marine soldiers and pirates fighting in the middle, and people are flowing back and forth. You guys can kick Luffy so accurately from here, bypassing all the personnel, seizing the critical gap, and kicking Luffy into the hands of Whitebeard more than 200 meters away. Tell me, was this accidental? Advertisement? Even if you aim specifically, it's not that accurate, right? Ron patted Kizaru's shoulder hard and said, I told you, this battle is to establish Marine's prestige. So I don't want anything to happen. I want everyone to see Marine's justice in treating pirates equally. It seems I have to let you have a longer memory this time. This sentence instantly made Kizaru's sweat break out from behind. As soon as Ron finished speaking, he punched Kizaru in the stomach. The huge force was compressed on Kizaru's belly in an instant. Kizaru felt like his stomach was churning, but the power didn't stay inside and then came out directly from his body. Behind Kizaru is the frozen inner bay of Aokiji. Ubeard's pirate ship is still frozen in it. Now, the force of this punch penetrated Kizaru's stomach. It shot out directly from the back, and almost instantly, a big hole appeared in the clothes behind Kizaru, exposing his back. The moment this impact force came out of Kizaru's back at a speed visible to the naked eye. Expand directly, the whole air seemed to be condensed. Centered on Kizaru's back, like the yellow river bursting its banks, the water spreads instantly when it rushes out. It turned into a shockwave 100 meters wide. The surrounding air was sucked out in an instant. The ice in the inner bay exploded instantly, and under such a huge impact, the entire seawater in the inner bay churned directly. Above, Whitebeard's more than 40 pirate ships fell apart the moment they came into contact with the shockwave. Turned into dust. The huge impact force wiped out all the ice cities and pirate ships in the inner bend. The entire sea is divided into two and stretches for hundreds of miles with no end in sight. It set off huge waves. Huge waves nearly 100 meters high spread to both sides in an instant, and the entire inward curved water flow was pushed away in an instant. The ground beneath the sea was exposed, hundreds of meters deep. It actually turned the inner bay into land. It lasted for a while before seawater poured in from the surrounding area. Like a tsunami, make a deafening sound. Even the entire Malinfondo island was shaken twice by the impact of the huge waves. Terrible. Is this something that humans can do? This punch shocked everyone present. They looked at this scene in disbelief. Combed the seawater into a middle part? The fear of dying made Kizaru break out in cold sweat. This time he was really scared. He understood that Ron's punch was not to hurt him, but to tell him that if he wanted to kill him, it would be easy. Because he knew that Ron's punch did not use hockey. Advertisement: if I had just used hockey, I am afraid that I will be beaten to dust by him in an instant. Kizaru could even feel his lips trembling as he looked at the scene behind him. This is simply a natural disaster level. Kizaru took a deep breath. He had never felt so close to death. This was the first time since he became an admiral that he was shaken by someone else's momentum. If only I added a little armament hockey to that fist. I am afraid that I have already merged into the air now. All members of the Whitebeard pirates were stunned. This scene is so intuitive. Ron took action twice in Summit War. The first time was to destroy Dolag's bomb ship. But that time it was in the air after all. There is no specific reference. So I can't feel this shock, but it's different now. The entire sea is a reference, and the sea is cracked. Just now, the frozen area in the inner bay was endless, and even the ice and water were evacuated in an instant. What makes them most desperate is that the boat they originally planned to escape from after rescuing Ace was also beaten into powder. That's nearly 40 ships. Now there's nothing on the entire sea except the turbulent water pouring in. Whitebeard looked at this scene in disbelief. As the strongest man, he felt a hint of despair at this moment. The strongest? Are you kidding? This bald guy is the strongest? The most shocking thing is Garp. Although he is known as Garp a Fist, at this moment he understands that if compared with the Inspector General, how can he be called an Iron Fist? Dofist is almost the same. I don't dare to think about what kind of effect 2.0 Shang would have if he boxed with me. Garp understands that this is not just a final warning to Kizaru. Also a warning to all Marines. Garp is now extremely shocked, and at the same time a little worried. Luffy is his grandson after all. If I faced him, I would definitely let him go. However, when he thought of Ron's attack just now, Garp felt cold all over. How should I release the water, in case Ron finds out? I'm not Logia. Even if he doesn't use hockey, I won't be able to withstand this punch. Garp suddenly fell into a dilemma. Do you still want to save your grandson? Do you still need to release water? What would he do if Luffy really rushed to the execution stand? Ron patted Kizaru's shoulder again, waking him up from his panic. Afterwards, the tone was very calm, and there was no trace of anger at all. He said so calmly, "Now, go and get Luffy. You can do it, right?" Although the tone was gentle, everyone's ears could not help but feel chills standing up. In the far distance, Red Hair and Kaido, who were fighting, suddenly felt a landslide and tsunami coming, passing between them. Looking at the deep ravine that could be seen to the bottom, the two fell into deep thought. 109. Punch Kizaru so much that he is too scared to touch fish. Shanks comes to save face. Previous chapter. Next chapter advertisement. The red-haired Shanks is here to stop a fight, but this guy Kaido just wants to benefit from it. He wanted to take advantage of the battle between Whitebeard and Marine, and then kill both of them in one fell swoop. So he planned to take advantage of this time to come to Malinfondo and stage a show of a mantis stalking a cicada and an oriole behind. In order to prevent things from getting bigger, so red-haired Shanks stopped Kaido. At this moment, the two of them were fighting in the sea near Marinfanduo. Kaido, do you want the whole world to be in chaos? Ha ha ha, isn't this just right? Let the whole world be in chaos. This is what I want. Don't you think the world is too boring now, Shanks? How many years have you and I sat in the position of the 4 emperors? But no one can become the pirate king. As long as the world is in chaos, then I will have a chance. Kaido shouted while holding the mace in his hand. Shanks also frowned. Neither of them can convince the other? Now that things have come to a point, we can only rely on our fists to speak. Whoever has fists will listen to you. This is the highest rule in this sea, so the two people fought directly. The pirate forces on both sides were on the left and the right, and the two captains started fighting first. The sword in Shanks' hand and the mace in Kaido's hand collided directly. Wrapped around the conqueror's hockey, the powerful aura shot straight into the clouds, and the entire sea area was violently windy. Waves tens of meters high rose into the sky, and their powerful momentum directly split the sky into two. Huge cracks appeared in the clouds visible to the naked eye. Shanks, it seems that missing an arm has not affected your strength. I thought you had regressed. Snort. This terrifying momentum made the crew members on both sides extremely excited. 15. This is the strength of 4 emperors. It's so powerful, under a full attack, the sky can even split. The surrounding sea has now become turbulent, with the two sides meeting as the center, setting off huge waves. What kind of strength can cause such destructive power? As expected of our captain, Usopp said while looking at the waves rising around him. Yes, only monsters like them can do a battle that can make the sea uneasy. Ben Beckman blew out a smoke ring, obviously very proud of his captain's strength. The same goes for the pirates on Kaido's side. Boat King Jack stood on the bow of the boat, feeling the sight of the roaring waves. Boss Kaido's strength is really getting stronger and stronger. Quinn smiled and said, "That is, the confrontation between the 4 emperors. Otherwise, how could anyone achieve such a feat on the sea?" However, at this moment, red-haired Shanks and Kaido, and suddenly observation hockey sensed danger at the same time. Advertisement. There seemed to be something flying over at great speed in the distance. The two immediately separated, pulled away, almost at this critical moment. Suddenly, there was a majestic impact, pushing the sea towards this side with an unstoppable trend. really pushing the sea. The speed is too fast. The two four emperors' fleets flashed between them. The raging waves directly pushed both sides apart. The whole ship shook violently and almost capsized. The whole sea was shaken. If the two fleets had been closer just now, they might have been completely wiped out by now. What the hell is this? After everything calms down. Kaido and Shanks looked at the huge gap between them. The entire sea water seemed to be cut open. In front of the two of them, there was actually a land without water? It only surprised two people. Not only that, the pirates who had just lamented that the four emperors' power could affect the sea were all confused at the moment. Compared with the scene that happened in front of me, the fight between the two four emperors just now caused a little splash at most. This is called truly triggering ocean fusion. In the end, what happened? Could it be an earthquake or tsunami? Never happened before. What's going on? It seems to be coming from Marine headquarters. Ben Beckman said with a solemn expression. Shanks took a deep breath, looked in the direction of Marine headquarters, and said in a deep voice. What exactly happened there? Then, he looked at Kaido again. Kaido, I don't have time to waste with you now. I'm going to Marineford immediately. If you still want to cause trouble, then I will do my best to stop you now. Kaido looked at the ravine in front of him in disbelief, as if someone had slashed the sea with a knife. At this moment, seawater is pouring into it continuously, and the entire sea is restoring itself. Go on your own, Lousy has gone back. Kaido picked up the mace, then turned and left. He had a bad feeling that something big was going to happen to Marin Fando and it was very dangerous. It's better to stay away. Slipping away, Jack was a little dissatisfied and said. Advertisement, Boss Kaido, what are you afraid of? Let's move the boat over and we'll know what happened. Kaido snorted. Are you so powerful? How about you become the captain? Jack. After seeing the Kaido pirates really leaving here, Shanks frowned and led the fleet toward the marine window. I hope there's still enough time. If I go, they will definitely give me a face and stop fighting. Shanks said. Usopp laughed loudly. Don't worry, Captain, they will still give you face. But I heard that this time, they also arrested Mr. Rayleigh. He is the captain of the boss, and he will be executed. Boss, do we want to save him 10 times? The fat chef said while eating meat. According to the boss's reputation, it is not difficult to save Captain Rayleigh. Now, Marine Headquarters Marineford. Everyone's mood is like the sea, rough and difficult to calm down. Anyway, the scene just now was too exaggerated. Before this, they thought the Marine's strongest combat power was at most 3 admirals or Garp, but now it seems that is not the case at all. In front of this bald man, these guys are just like bandit kings. It's impossible for such a strong person to have no limits, right? Whitebeard frowned. Based on his understanding of strength, it was impossible for any human being to be as big as this. Unless there are any restrictions. For example, there is a king who can use the fist of the king. His punch is also very powerful, but it takes a long time to accumulate power. Only then can one punch be used. This bald man should be like this, otherwise it would be impossible for a random punch to have such power. There should be a time limit. Whitebeard suddenly felt that what he was thinking made sense. After all, the last time he punched was more than half an hour ago. In other words, his punch should be the same as the king's fist, which requires a long time to accumulate power. Thinking of this, Whitebeard felt a lot more relieved. As long as not just any punch can have this power. Otherwise it would be too pervert. Ron patted Kizaru on the shoulder, and after saying that to him, he turned around and returned to the podium. Sengoku looked at Ron in disbelief, and was shocked and convinced by the strength Ron showed just now. At this time, Stussy came over, saluted Ron, and then reported. Sir Ron, we found a ship at the port, but after we went up to check, it was empty inside. Blackbeard and the others were not found. Ron was stunned. It seems they disembarked early. Tell Lucci and the others to come back. If there is anyone in the entire pirate world who looks most like a pirate, it is undoubtedly Blackbeard. This guy is a pure pirate. Advertisement? Yes. Stussy nodded and stepped back. Sengoku asked with some confusion. This guy Blackbeard released all the pirates in the underwater prison, and also selected a group of the worst pirates. Magellan has never been able to find his whereabouts. Could it be that he also came to Marineford? Ron nodded. He will definitely come. Sengoku said angrily. This hateful guy is even more hateful than Whitebeard. Can you find his whereabouts? We must catch him this time. Ron took out the feng shui compass, which showed that Blackbeard had logged in. Sengoku, go deal with this person. Leave it to me. Sengoku was very interested in the magical thing in Ron's hand, as if he could find anything. Blackbeard has secretly logged into Marineland. Even so many Marines didn't notice it, but Ron's compass easily found the location. Sengoku was envious of this thing. Now behind Ron, Toshiki holding the sword saw this scene and his jaw dropped. This? Datu is Marshal Marine. The Inspector General ordered Sengoku to arrest someone? And Marshal Sengoku seems to be obeying his orders? Kizaru was frightened at this moment. For the time being, I don't dare to fish or release water, otherwise I will really die. Thinking of this, Kizaru immediately looked in the direction of Whitebeard. At this moment, Luffy was still in his hand. Let's catch Luffy first. I thought I could get some peace by hiding on the edge, but now it seems that this battle will not work if I don't work hard. As for whether Luffy can survive this battle, let's leave it to Garp. Kizaru glanced in Garp's direction unconsciously. I'd better not take a trip through this muddy water. Save your own grandson yourself. Whether it can be saved or not is up to you too. Kizaru stopped twisting his mouth and touching his chin. His expression of wanting to be beaten was gone. He decided to save his life first. Hurry up and grab Luffy. Then, Kizaru turned directly into a stream of light and used the 8-foot mirror to instantly arrive in front of Whitebeard. Luffy said while staring at Whitebeard's hand, Edward Newgate, I accidentally kicked Luffy here just now. Can you give it back to me now? Gla la la la, Glitter Kid, if you want to take it back, just do it yourself. Whitebeard handed Luffy to Ivankov aside and laughed. Kizaru frowned, his expression was particularly gloomy, and he said very seriously. I captured Luffy today, and you can't protect him, I'm serious. Sakazuki, Kuzan, you two cover me. Aokiji and Akainu looked at each other in disbelief. This serious look, is it still Kizaru? 110. Sengoku's second Blackbeard group, Kizaru with chicken blood. Previous chapter next chapter advertisement. At this moment, Kizaru was full of energy, as if he had been given a shot of blood. It is the first time in my 40 years in the army that I have carried out a mission so proactively. In the past, it was Aokiji and Akainu who urged Kizaru not to hold back. When I went on missions with him before, this guy always found various reasons to fish for trouble. It's really annoying. This also led to the later unwillingness of Aokiji and Akainu to perform missions with Kizaru. The person always disappeared after hitting him. After the beating, I found him gesticulating with the soldiers on the edge. But at this moment, Kizaru changed his previous style and asked Aokiji and Akainu to complete the task together for the first time. Neither of them reacted for a while, don't even recognize Kizaru anymore. Aokiji. This guy wants to be a model worker. Akainu. He just doesn't remember things well. It seems he was frightened by the Inspector General. Aokiji. Indeed, we could feel the pressure caused by that punch even when we were so far away, let alone Kizaru, who experienced it personally. Akainu. One thing brings another, finally someone can cure this Kizaru. Kizaru no longer twisted his mouth or touched his chin with his hand. The dead face that needed a beating also relaxed. This sudden change is just like Smoker. Smoker has stopped smoking and needs to wear bare clothes. The same is true of Kizaru's changes today. Kizaru's eyes were bright and he said very seriously. Sakazuki, Kuzan, what are you two doing? Hurry up and cooperate with me to carry out the mission. We have to catch Luffy. Aokiji and Akainu looked at each other, feeling a little uncomfortable for a moment. However, the two of them had no ink marks and actually cooperated with Kizaru. The two men moved forward to contain Whitebeard, while Kizaru looked for an opportunity to capture Luffy. Ron sat on the highest podium and watched this scene. He couldn't help but nodded with relief. It seems that his education is still very effective. It seemed that the outcome of the battlefield here should be determined soon, so Ron set his sights on Sengoku. Sure enough, Sengoku followed Ron's direction. Blackbeard was actually found. At this moment, Blackbeard is leading the criminals who came out of the underwater prison. Sneaked into Malinfondo quietly, now hiding behind a wall. Because of the dark fruit effect, they hide very well. These subordinates can even hide in the dark caves created by dark fruit. Outsiders can't find it at all. This is also the reason why Blackbeard has been hiding here for so long without anyone finding out. Advertisement moreover, they can bypass CP9 and land secretly ashore. I have to say, he still has some abilities. Poison Q coughed and said, Captain Teach, Whitebeard seems to be in good condition now. Is he really hurting both Jin and Marine? Finoka adjusted the scope and said seriously, I have to admit that Whitebeard at his peak is indeed strong. If we can't hurt both of them, I'm afraid we won't have a chance to capture Shock Fruit. Burgess laughed loudly and said, the 3 Marine Admirals are also very powerful, much more powerful than us. Fortunately, the captain came up with such a clever idea to let them fight each other. When both sides are injured later, we will end it, ha ha ha. Blackbeard laughed too. Ha ha ha, Marine doesn't even know about our existence right now, so let Marine and these idiots help me drain Whitebeard's energy. Let's hide here first, Marine can't find us. Blackbeard was here for a while peeking at the battlefield and whispering. As expected of Blackbeard, a generation of heroic pirates who knew how to wait for the opportunity. On the Whitebeard pirate ship, he waited for more than 10 years just for a dark fruit, so he was patient enough and didn't mind waiting here for a little longer for the shock fruit. However, just when they were complacent, suddenly, a voice appeared from behind. Hey, who are you calling an idiot? The voice was very gloomy, seeming to be suppressing anger. Blackbeard and others were suddenly shocked and turned around suddenly. Only then did he realize that it was Marine Marshal Sengoku. When did he arrive at the back? Why don't you feel anything? Blackbeard's expression changed drastically. I couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. The other subordinates are all ready for battle. Immediately distance yourself from Sengoku, Blackbeard asked with a sullen face. No way. How did you find us? How did you know we were here? Blackbeard really couldn't figure it out. He was well hidden along the way and was not discovered by any Marine at all. Moreover, the location where he is hiding is also a blind spot, and most people would not think of hiding people here. So, how was this Sengoku discovered? Sengoku's expression is extremely serious. This really surprises me. I didn't expect you to actually hide here. Inspector General Ron's compass is really easy to use. This makes me very envious. Blackbeard's expression was extremely ugly, and he said with a cold face. What the hell are you talking about? What compass? Sengoku moved his body and moved forward. You don't need to know this. Advertisement, Teach, you actually took advantage of the opportunity of negotiating with Marine to go to the underwater prison and release all the prisoners inside. Do you know the consequences of doing this? How many heinous pirates like Douglas are now walking around the world? I will never forgive you. After Sengoku finished speaking, his whole body swelled up. The cloak behind him separated from his body and was blown away by the wind. The body gradually glowed with golden light, and finally expanded into a giant Buddha. The light on his body immediately attracted the attention of all Marine soldiers. Only then did they discover that Marshal Sengoku had also joined the battlefield. And they are dealing with Blackbeard and the others. Even the Marshal worked so hard, what qualifications do they have to not work hard? Even the Marshal has resigned himself, they must work hard. Garp. What did this guy Sengoku do? He actually ended up personally. The Inspector General went too far. This is beyond his authority. Whitebeard. Blackbeard Teach. I didn't expect this guy to be here. Isn't that old guy Sengoku always giving advice at the rear? This time he actually took the field in person, while the bald man sat in the position of Marshal and commanded? Kizaru also stopped attacking, glanced in the direction of Sengoku, and couldn't help but rejoice. Fortunately, I changed my ways in time. Even Marshal Sengoku had to obey the orders of the Inspector General and come down to work in person. If I try again, I will die miserably. Seeing Sengoku transform into a giant Buddha form, Blackbeard's expression changed drastically. His face was very frightened. He has not yet obtained the shock fruit, and his strength has not yet evolved to its optimal state, so he is no match for the opponent now. He didn't expect that Sengoku would discover him so quickly, and his plan was ruined. The most important thing now is to leave here safely. It is no longer important to snatch the shock fruit, but to save this life first. You guys, attack me quickly. Blackbeard gave an order, and Burgess, Poison Q Fan Oka and other subordinates all attacked Sengoku at the same time. Blackbeard also uses his fruit powers to attack. However, Sengoku didn't take it seriously at all. Facing the overwhelming attack, Sengoku raised his hand and patted it down condescendingly. Shockwave. A layer of transparent energy fluctuations appeared on the golden arm. He directly collided with the entire Blackbeard group. Just for a moment, directly destroy all the opponent's attacks. Sengoku's huge body was as heavy as Mount Tai. Even the entire Blackbeard group was no match for Sengoku. He was immediately crushed in one confrontation. Poof, Blackbeard spit out blood. With just one move, Blackbeard's entire group was wiped out. Sengoku is worthy of being Marshal Marine, and his strength is certainly beyond words. Advertisement. The shock caused by this scene was too great. First of all, after Sengoku turned into a giant Buddha, he had a huge size, coupled with this invincible attack history. Destroyed a pirate group with one palm. This behavior greatly increased Marine's confidence. Marine's aura instantly became even higher. However, this is also Ron's purpose. The reason why he asked Sengoku to deal with Blackbeard was to increase Marine's anger. Ron wants to use some award to completely change Marine, not only to make Marine confident in their own strength, but also to make them believe that they can uphold justice and have the ability to uphold justice. Ron said to everyone at this moment, "Your marshal has worked so hard, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and end the fight, then go home from get off work and have dinner. This war is won, everyone gets 3 days off, receive 10 times the bonus. There is nothing more exciting than getting a raise during holidays, Wang Li Jiao. Those false claims are meaningless." At this moment, Ron gave the order, and all the Marine soldiers became excited instantly. Immediately morale soared. Sengoku looked at the cheering soldiers and couldn't help but feel speechless. I have to admit that for these Marine soldiers, holidays and salary increases are much stronger than false slogans. Under this encouragement, the effect is even more obvious than the flag waving and shouting of the commander of the Eastern Army of the Revolutionary Army. Seeing that the Revolutionary Army was almost wiped out, the pirates under Whitebeard also suffered heavy losses. After paying such a high price, they are still far away from the execution platform. It can't go on like this. Whitebeard immediately knocked back the Marine and Admiral and then shouted, "NT!" With an order, suddenly, a 38-meter tall giant emerged from the sea. The descendant of Oz the Devil, Little Oz. As soon as the giant Oz appeared, he directly defeated a group of Marines. With the height of a giant, it only takes a few steps to reach the execution platform. Oz looked at Ace on the execution platform and began to sprint madly. Ordinary Marine soldiers were like kittens and puppies in front of him, posing no threat to him at all. Ron snapped his fingers at this moment, then he said, "Hancock, kill him, it's your turn to show off." 111. The pressure is on Garp's side. Garp Luffy meets in a narrow road. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Boy Hancock has not made any moves since the war began. Always standing next to him, because she didn't get Ron's order, she had no chance to take action. What's more, she didn't want to take action, but she saw Hawkeye take action. Boa Hancock never expected that Hawkeye would work so hard. In order to carry out Ron's order, he even lost an arm. It's so miserable, as a swordsman, if you don't have the arm to hold the sword. Then, the strength will drop to at least 7 or 8 levels. This made Boya Hancock really unbearable. If it were her, she would never fight to this extent. After all, Marine is not one of our own, so why bother fighting so hard for Marine? Boya Hancock had always thought this way before, even though she agreed to serve Ron in Marine. But she also planned to deal with it hastily without taking it too seriously. However, Ron's punch just now really scared Boya Hancock. This Ron is so strict even with his own admiral. He even almost wanted to kill him because of his groping. Not only does this not make Boa Hancock feel threatened, but even Admiral does so, let alone her, a non-staff member. Therefore, Hancock did not dare to let go because he was afraid of Ron's strength. Because she knew that if she let herself go, the man would definitely kill her without hesitation. After all, he is not as important as Marine Admiral in his heart. Then, Boa Hancock immediately came to Little Oz. Little Oz was so huge that he almost reached the edge of the execution platform in just a few steps. Ace was extremely excited at this moment. Oz. You're here too. Oz also nodded excitedly. Ace. Don't worry, I will rescue you right away. At this moment, Oz's hand 347 was almost able to reach the execution platform. Victory seemed just around the corner. No one can stop this behemoth. Just at this time, Boya Hancock suddenly appeared in front of Oz. I won't allow you to do this. Hancock, have you also become Marine's lackey? Ace frowned and said. Boa Hancock completely ignored Ace behind him and just stared ahead. Little Oz glanced at Boa Hancock and punched Boa Hancock without any care. Don't stand in my way. I want to save Ace. Advertisement. Oz's voice was very thick and he spoke word by word. He didn't think the thin woman in front of him could stop him. In front of a behemoth like him, he is at most like a mantis trying to act like a chariot. I won't let you succeed, then let me break you into pieces. A body of more than 30 meters, a waving fist, carrying a strong wind. Like a small meteorite falling, it streaked through the air, carrying a huge amount of power. Makes the sound of breaking wind, hit Boa Hancock directly in the face. In front of this huge fist, Hancock's body seemed so small. If you hit him with one punch, you will definitely die. However, Hancock Shichibukai's reputation was not bought. I saw the hem of Boya's Hancock Chansam flying in the air, and my hands became one. Aim in Oz's direction. Even though the fist was about to hit her, Boa Hancock did not dodge. Marrow mellow. In an instant, countless pink heart-shaped bubbles rushed towards Lil Oz. When the huge fist was about to reach Boa Hancock. The little pink heart has also met Oz. BFAE, the difference in visual impact between the two is so obvious. One is a light love, while the other is a giant fist that carries immense power. Most people present thought that the pink little girl would lose. However, it was this huge fist that stopped first. The whole of Oz turned into a stone statue in an instant. With the previous inertia, with a bang, he fell to the ground. Little Oz was killed by Empress Boa Hancock less than a few meters away from the execution platform. Ron nodded and said, "Good job, go kill Ivankov for me." Ron then pointed at Ivankov, who was leading Luffy forward, and said. Boa Hancock was speechless. She thought that it would be enough to just F***K Oz, but she didn't expect that she was assigned a new task. "What? You think you've done too much, huh?" Ron could see the dissatisfaction on K's face. His tone became a little more serious and he said in a deep voice. Ever since everyone saw Ron punch, they all became very sensitive to Ron's tone. "I'm afraid that the fists will be piled on me next time." Boa Hancock is no exception. Hearing Ron's tone change, he was shocked and his thighs were so frightened that he became sweaty. He immediately frowned. "I'm going to kill that she-male right now. This guy is not easy to deal with, and I don't know if his beauty has any effect on the ladyboy." Boa Hancock could only bite the bullet and stop Ivankov. "Boa Hancock, I didn't expect you to work for the world government." "Advertisement, don't you know that the bald man is from the direct government? Don't you hate world government the most?" Ivankov stopped and said coldly. Just at this time, while no one was paying attention, Luffy was already less than 100 meters away from the execution platform. During this period, Kizaru tried to intercept several times, but was blocked by Whitebeard. Facing such a peak powerhouse, it is not possible to get away in a short while. Kizaru saw that Luffy was about to approach the execution platform. That being the case, there is nothing I can do about it. "I tried my best but couldn't catch Luffy, now the pressure is on you, Garp." Kizaru said calmly. He could finally breathe a sigh of relief. "It all depends on how this guy Garp behaves. This is your own grandson, can you save it?" Lightning. Ivankov also saw Luffy's location, and Lightning, a revolutionary army cadre, was nearby. So he immediately ordered. Lightning immediately understood and took out 2 pairs of scissors. Then while running forward, he began to cut the ground. Afterwards, the entire ground became like a cloth. It was actually cut open, and it was cut very neatly, and the ground after cutting was very soft. Lightning threw his hands upward with force. The cut land is like a streamer, floating in the air. Then he set it directly on the execution platform. Then the ribbon quickly turned into land again. Extremely hard. A direct path was built between the execution platform and the ground. "Luffy, you go forward boldly, I will stop this woman." Ivankov laughed loudly and then said. After saying that, he stood directly in front of Boa Hancock. "You don't need to stop me. My mission is not to kill Luffy, but to kill you. So even if you don't stop me, I won't chase him." Boa Hancock raised his head, pinched his waist, and pointed at Ivankov. "That's good, ha ha ha, let's see if you have this ability." Ivankov laughed. Now, Luffy has stepped onto the ladder Lightning made for him. Keep running upward. This is still 100 meters away from the execution platform. As long as you rush up, you can see Ace and save him. Luffy was quite excited at this moment, because this is the closest he has ever been to the execution platform. It's almost time to get to Ace. Advertisement. When the surrounding marine soldiers saw this scene, they all took out their guns and prepared to attack Luffy. And just then, Dorag suddenly flew over. A sudden strong wind blew up. A level 10 wind blew across the entire battlefield. Whether it was Marine or one of his own people, anyone who was close was instantly blown away. Those who were still preparing to attack Luffy with guns flew into the sky in an instant, including weapons and people. It's really troublesome. Ron shook his head. Most of his cards were now sent out on missions. There are no extra cards to contain Dorag, Momosagi, T-Dolphin, and Staff Crane. The 3 of you come together and stop Drago. Don't let him interfere on the battlefield. Yes, Staff Officer. He didn't expect that he would also be named, but he nodded anyway. On the one hand, she was indeed a little wary of Ron's strength. On the other hand, she also admired Ron's coordination and arrangement ability on the battlefield. She even thinks that Ron is much better than Sengoku in this aspect. So she was very willing to obey Ron's arrangement, not to mention that even Marshal Sengoku had been arranged by Ron. Momosagi and Takagi were not surprised. They had been waiting to be summoned for a long time. This time, Ron finally assigned them a task. So, the 2 of them jumped down first, followed closely by Staff He, and the 3 of them stood in front of Dorag. At this moment, Ron and Tashigi were the only people on the podium. All other cards were sent out by him. If something happens again, Ron will have to take action himself. At this moment, Garp was sitting on the execution platform. Just watching Luffy run up, I couldn't help but sigh. Such a narrow road. The 2 are destined to meet on a narrow road. Even if you want to let Luffy pass, it's impossible. Can't the Revolutionary Army be smarter? Make the road wider? Being bypassed by Luffy like this, at least there was some reason. Now this is a small stall that can only accommodate one person. There is no reason to let the other person go. There will definitely be a fight between the 2 sides. What a headache. Garp shook his head helplessly. If this was the case, he could only have a head-on confrontation. In a head-to-head confrontation, is there any good way to let go? Garp really can't think of it, and at the same time. Garp also found that Ron on the podium was looking at him with interest. Not only that, the guy even brought a cup of tea and was drinking it while watching. It seems very leisurely, but it can't take its eyes off. Garp sighed helplessly. It seems that Ron is targeting him, and the difficulty has increased again. This good grandson makes Grandpa very stressed. 112. No tolerance for deserters. Kirby wants to be a deserter. Previous chapter next chapter advertisement. In fact, what Garp expected was true. Ron was indeed sitting on the command platform supervising the battle. But it's not just about watching Garp play. Ron at this moment. Looking at the chaotic battlefield below, every battle situation is under his control. The distribution of troops and battle arrangements in any place are all decided by him. Although he is drinking tea very leisurely now, he seems to be out of tune with the battlefield below. It's like two different scenery, but Ron always paid attention to every corner of the battlefield and made timely adjustments and arrangements. The top is strategizing, and the bottom is orderly. It looks chaotic to a layman, but an insider can see the layout and arrangement at a glance. Being able to command properly in such a large-scale battle and keep the entire battlefield under control is not something that ordinary people can achieve. Otherwise, Sengoku wouldn't admire Ron so much and wouldn't let him mess around here. It was precisely because he saw the secret that Sengoku chose to hand over the command to Ron. The battlefield is like a chessboard, and Ron is the one sitting on it playing chess. At this moment, the battle between the two sides has entered the final stage. The final battle is over. The fighting of the marine soldiers is almost over, and the battle between the two sides and the soldiers is almost over. Under Ron's encirclement tactics, the Revolutionary Army, which had experienced national wars, was retreating in succession. The scale is shrinking rapidly. Marines' circle of encirclement is getting smaller and smaller. Although these marine soldiers already have 1 to 2 levels of flown rock-shattering fist, the Revolutionary Army is not made from scratch. Coupled with the female Revolutionary Army who can wave the flag and add buffs. Therefore, Marines' casualties were also very large. Ron saw this scene. He immediately ordered, Tashigi, let the medical troops enter, cover them, and rescue the injured. Yes. Subsequently, a large number of medical personnel emerged from the already intact war trenches on both sides. Their purpose is very clear, not to participate in the battle, but to only carry the injured Marine soldiers out of the battlefield. Or dragged to the trench for treatment. This move greatly reduced the casualties of Marine soldiers. Many Marine soldiers with minor injuries can immediately join the battle. This operation alone is already much better than that of the Revolutionary Army. Advertisement. Now the Revolutionary Army is fighting a war of attrition. Its own troops are constantly being depleted and there is no way to replenish them. The Marine side is fighting a supply war, whether it is weapons or medical care, they can follow up. So the feeling given to the Revolutionary Army is, why are Marines attacking more and more? At this time, Tashigi said, My Lord Inspector General, I found Hawkeye under the rubble. He is missing an arm. He's seriously injured. Do we need to rescue him too? After all, this is a pirate, so Tashigi is not sure whether to save him or not. Ron nodded and said, Rescue him, carry him to me, then help him look for his broken arm, find it and bring it over. He used all his strength in the battle just now and did not slack off at all. We will not give up on those who have contributed to Marine. Ron wanted to tell the world through this move that as long as you are loyal to Marine wholeheartedly, Marine will also treat you preferentially. He wants to make Hawkeye a model. Not long after, the seriously injured Hawkeye was carried over by medical soldiers. But that arm has not been found yet. Now he is the same as his good friend Red Hair, a one-armed hero. At this moment, Hawkeye was covered in blood, and he could see how fierce his previous battle with Whitebeard was. Ron used healing techniques to heal Hawkeye's injuries, but his broken arm was not found, so there was no way to recover it. Hawkeye never expected that Ron would actually treat him, and the incredible thing was that he could actually be cured. He knew very well how serious his injury was just now. Unexpectedly, he was swept away by the light green light and recovered within a few seconds. Isn't this ability too strange? Even better than Marco? Why did you save me? Hawkeye didn't understand. Because you obey. Evil Eye. Hawkeye's cold face suddenly darkened. Why do you believe you can control me so much? I don't need to believe, but you need to believe that I can kill you at any time. Ron said calmly. Hawkeye was stunned for a moment, suddenly very cruel, but what Ron said made sense. A big fist is the last word. Ron continued to look at the battlefield. Now. Aokiji Kizaru and Akainu are fighting against Whitebeard. Advertisement. There was back and forth fighting between the two sides. The adrenaline-fueled Whitebeard's fighting power at this moment has exceeded the limit. He was able to defeat 3 Marine admirals by himself without falling behind. What makes Ron more gratified is that Kizaru fights extremely hard. Even harder than the other 2 Marine admirals. In all the battles that Kizaru participated in before, after each battle, there was not a trace of dust on his body, let alone any injuries. But now, Kizaru's body is covered with traces of battle, and Kakuzu is bleeding from his mouth. It can be seen that this time he is indeed very serious. In comparison, the 2 guys Aokiji and Akainu seemed a bit perfunctory. So, Yao En patted the chair and said, 011403315 Fei Lu 213383251. Kuzan, Sakazuki, are you 2 here to make soy sauce? It's so soft and you haven't eaten? Look at Kizaru, are you too embarrassed? You can't even fight as hard as Kizaru, it just won't work. You 2 should go home and farm. Don't embarrass me here. Aokiji and Akainu who were fighting couldn't help but blush when they heard this sentence. I'm really ashamed. You can say anything about them, but saying that they're not as good as Kizaru is really unacceptable to them. After all, in their impression, they all know what kind of person Kizaru is. He is a typical bastard. If he is not as good as him, it would be a great shame and humiliation, and he really has no face to be a Marine admiral. The Mi Tai people don't bring such Mi Tai. So, after being stimulated by Ron, Aokiji and Akainu immediately ignited and began to compete with Kizaru. The three people competed with each other, and their attacks became more and more fierce. Kizaru looked confused. Huh? Why don't my words sound good to me? Is this a compliment to me? Whitebeard's pressure doubled in an instant. Not only was his beard white, but his face was also white this time. He glared at Ron and snorted coldly. This bald kid is really good at tricks. He is more cunning than Sengoku. Ron then moved his eyes away with satisfaction and looked at Dorag again. Momosagi, the T-Dolphin, and the Crane Counselor are also 3 against 1. Although Momosagi and Chado claim to have the strength of Admiral and are already quasi-Admiral, in fact, the real Admiral is still a bit different. Counselor, he is worthy of being an older generation of pirates. Although she does not take action often, it does not mean that she is weak in strength. At this moment, the strength she shows is stronger than Momosagi and the T-Dolphin. Among the 3 of them, Counselor, he is also the main output. All in all, these 3 people performed well, but through Ron's supervision, he found that Momosagi and the T-Pig did not exert 100% of their strength. Momosagi, T-Dolphin, yours? Do you have an idle bag? You can't let go? If you 2 want to be promoted to Admiral, you have to show me your real skills. Otherwise, why are you promoted to Admiral? You are not required to show Marine the door. Ron shouted suddenly. Can he still decide whether we are promoted to Admiral? Ron's words, advertisement. This made Momosagi and the T-Dolphin who were fighting feel a little nervous. What was originally an ordinary battle is now like a promotion exam. The 2 looked at each other. Of course they wanted to be admirals. In this case, they must perform well in this battle. Let the Inspector General take a good look at the strength of the 2 of them. It's time to show off in front of the Inspector General. As a result, the 2 people who were originally lagging behind Staff He in terms of attack suddenly burst out with incomparable momentum, and instantly surpassed Staff He and launched a fierce attack on Dolog. In an instant, Dorag felt the pressure doubled, and he frowned involuntarily. I took a look at Ron, the instigator. His face was very ugly. This man can really mobilize the warrior spirit. Use different methods to deal with different subordinates. What a troublesome guy. With just a few words, he made his subordinates exert 120% of their power. He is a better leader than Sengoku, and a more terrifying enemy than Sengoku. Dorag couldn't help but thought. Ron nodded, very satisfied with the performance of Momosagi and the T-Dolphin. Then he turned his attention to Boya Hancock. The battle between the Empress and the Demon King is quite interesting. As expected, this she-male is not interested in women. Therefore, he was not at a disadvantage in the battle with Boya Hancock. The 2 of them went back and forth. Boya and Hancock sweat profusely and even began to pant. Coupled with this chansam, it has a unique charm. Fortunately, the one she was fighting against was the Shimon King, neither a man nor a woman. If she were a normal person, she would probably be turned to stone right now due to her fast heartbeat after seeing this erotic scene. Boa Hancock, Conquerors can also be wound. I only have Conquerors Hockey but I don't know how to use it. Do you still need me to teach you? You've been delaying for a little too long. End the battle quickly. Boa Hancock's expression changed, as if he understood something from Ron's words. Just as Ron was looking around the battlefield and supervising the battle, his eyes suddenly passed by a man with pink hair. This guy is out of tune with the Marines on the entire battlefield. The other Marine soldiers were desperately fighting against the pirates. This guy is here, but he is hiding behind the wall, muttering woe with Belmeber. He was still covering his head, looking terrified. He was even looking around, as if he was ready to escape at any time. Ron's expression changed. He immediately waved, called Tashigi over, and then pointed in the direction of Coby. Tashigi, go and show me what that pink-haired kid is doing. If he wants to escape, pull him to the execution platform and kill him in front of everyone. 113. Garp was knocked away by Luffy. Ron punched Garp through the island instantly. Previous chapter next chapter advertisement. Who had the worst impact of the Summer War? Garp ranks first, and Nakbi must rank second. In the plot of Summer War, Garp's betrayal of Luffy can be said to have greatly damaged Marines' confidence and justice. Extremely unfriendly to these new Marines. It is also a kind of blasphemy to the Marine soldiers who are fighting hard and risking their lives below. The punch that Garp was knocked away by Luffy directly made the justice that countless Marine soldiers below risked their lives to protect become so ridiculous. Many people risked their lives to stop Luffy, but Garp let him go so easily. What does this make those Marines who were knocked down along the way think? Will anyone try their best to intercept pirates in the future? Are we going to intercept pirates in the future? We still have to look at his identity and background. Those with backgrounds will not be stopped, only those without back injuries will fight. This belief will be deeply ingrained into the minds of all Marine soldiers in the future. When they face the same situation in the future, they will no longer be able to fight for justice with confidence. Every time before fighting a pirate, I would subconsciously consider the background of the pirate. Therefore, Garp's behavior has a profound impact on Marine. He didn't just do something as simple as releasing water, he desecrated Marine's justice and also desecrated the honor that countless soldiers fought to protect. Compared with Garp, 713, can only be said to be evenly matched. The fact that he was a deserter can be put aside for now. Because compared to the next thing, escape is really not worth mentioning. Deserting only affects one person, and it just shows that this person is cowardly. However, when the Summer War is about to end and Tianma is about to kill Luffy, Coby stood up and blocked his general. The impact of this incident is far worse than if he deserted. All of a sudden, the results of the entire Summer War were reduced by half. In this way, the battle situation that many soldiers sacrificed their lives for was completely buried. Especially the words he shouted to Akainu next, it can be called an exemplary speech that shakes the morale of the military. As a Marine soldier, at the most critical moment on this battlefield, he stopped his commander and protected a pirate. He also uttered arrogant words, rebuking Marines' justice, rebuking the rationality of this war, and questioning his own general. Discuss humanity with pirates and fairness with Marine. This is a naked attempt to shake the morale of the military, and it would not be an exaggeration to execute him on the spot. So these two guys are extremely bad, as long as any of them still did such a thing in this summer war. Well, Ron will never be lenient. For Ron, it must be executed on the spot. Even if it is Garp, if he dares to let Luffy off again this time, he will be punched away by Luffy on the execution platform. Then, Ron would kill both Garp and Luffy on the spot without hesitation. This battle is different from the usual small fights. When they were in the Seven Waters capital, Ron didn't have to worry about Garp teasing Luffy. After all, it wasn't a public event and it didn't have much of an impact. Advertisement, but this time, it was the Summer War that attracted worldwide attention. All the Marines were present. On this occasion, Ron would show no mercy if he dared to openly tease Luffy. With him in the Marine Corps, such insults to justice and the things these soldiers protect with their lives are not allowed. Even if Kizaru went too far before, he never made any move to be beaten away by Luffy. At least he had some sense of proportion. He knew he was a Marine Admiral and didn't do anything to embarrass Marine, so Ron spared his life. Ron is sitting here now, holding a cup of tea and looking in the direction of the execution platform. Staring intently at Garp. He's giving Garp one last chance. Before in the capital of Seven Waters, Garp had seriously reflected. Ron chose to believe him, thinking he will change his ways. In addition, Garp has made many achievements in Marine over the years and has not made any big mistakes. So I decided to give him a chance this time. If Garp chooses to knock Luffy away at this time, then he will be fighting for a way out for himself. If he chooses to be beaten away by Luffy, then obviously, Ron doesn't need to forgive him anymore. It's that simple. All options have been given to Garp. Even Ron has never interfered with Garp from the beginning until now. He rebuked Kizaru, rebuked all the Marine Admirals, but he didn't reprimand Garp yet. This was Ron's greatest respect for Garp's past contributions. The opportunity has been given to Garp. How to choose his fate and the fate of his grandson, it depends on himself. Right now, Luffy is in everyone's eyes, run towards the top of the execution platform. The distance is getting closer, 100 meters, 50 meters, 30 meters. Finally came to 20 meters, there are only 20 meters left to rescue Ace. Come on, Luffy, it's up to you whether you can go to the execution stand or not. It will be successful soon, come on Luffy. Luffy almost carries the hopes of all pirates and revolutionary forces. He is currently the person closest to the star platform. He was also the one who rushed the farthest, success or failure depends on this. Even Ace shouted excitedly, Luffy, you disobedient brother. Luffy was also very excited at the moment, advertisement. Ace, wait for me, I'll come to save you right away. The atmosphere of the whole place was raised to the highest point, and everyone held their breath. At this time, a figure jumped directly from the execution platform to the ladder. Plop. The entire ladder was cracked. This person is the boss of the last level, Garp. The last obstacle before the execution platform. At this moment, Garp looked gloomy. I have a lot of mixed feelings in my heart, and I am extremely tangled. At this moment, I saw Luffy getting closer and closer. This face is so similar to mine. Garp could feel Ron staring at him from behind, justice or family affection. He had to choose. Grandpa, don't block my way, I'm going to save Ace. Luffy shouted immediately when he saw Garp standing in front of him. Luffy, I'm not getting out of the way. Garp ripped off his cloak and shouted to Luffy. He made preparations for a fight. Luffy shouted loudly. In that case, I can only beat you away. Garp couldn't help but smile. He was indeed his grandson. This fearless attitude was very much like his former self. Bring it on. At this moment, Garp finally made up his mind that his grandson was still young and he must not be allowed to die here. There's only so much I can do for him. Garp gritted his teeth and decided to let go in the face of family ties. Luffy quickly pulled back with both hands, prepared to use rubber rocket launcher. Garp also decided that when Luffy's attack comes later, he won't dodge and will just be knocked away. Just pretend, you can't really hit Luffy, otherwise we can't beat him to death. The best way is to let Luffy fly away. At worst, he would be punished by the Inspector General and that would be the end of it. Rubber, rocket launcher. Luffy shouted loudly and quickly pulled his hands back from behind. Coupled with the elasticity of the rubber, this move was very powerful. But it's not powerful enough to knock Garp away. When Garp saw this scene, he began to count down in his heart, preparing to be knocked away. However, at this time, Garp's observation haki captures the future in an instant. His expression suddenly changed. In Garp's mind, a picture like this suddenly appeared. Advertisement Luffy's punch hit him as expected, and he flew off the stage. The next scene is the scariest. Originally, Garp thought that this would allow Luffy to go over and rescue Ace. But, in the picture of the future he saw in observation haki. This is not the case at all, the moment he was knocked away. Sitting on the highest podium, the man suddenly became furious. He slammed the table with such force that the command podium, which was more than 100 meters high, was instantly reduced to ruins. Immediately afterwards, the man jumped up and flew into the air, right on Luffy's head. At this moment, Luffy has reached the execution platform, and he is being beaten into the air. The bald man in the future scene jumped right above himself and the others. I saw him roaring angrily. Garp, I told you, if you dare to mess with me in Summit War, I will make you and your grandson disappear instantly. Immediately afterwards, I saw his body stopped in midair, bending down to gather strength, and then he punched directly below with cold eyes. In the scene of Garp's short future, this punch is like Shinigami's scythe. Full of murderous intent, this punch from a condescending position. In midair, the light even appeared distorted. The entire air was compressed to ultimate, and the fist was like the center of Uzumaki. Countless air converged towards the center of the fist. Immediately afterwards, a majestic force suddenly burst out from the air. Like the port of the Yellow River bursting its banks. In just an instant, Garp felt a flash of white light 3.9 in front of his eyes, and a suffocating pressure rushing towards his face like a mountain bearing down on him. It's like the Milky Way pouring back. No, it's like a meteorite impacting from outside. It feels like the end of the world. Just for a moment, the entire ground where the execution platform was located was instantly reduced to ashes in front of this huge shockwave. No one on it was spared, including Luffy and himself. They were directly wiped from the world without leaving any trace. The power of the shockwave hadn't stopped yet, and it hit the ground directly. In the last scene of Garp observation hockey, the vision of the future, the entire island was punched through. A circular cavity with a diameter of 100 meters and no bottom. The huge impact made the entire Marinfondo vibrate. The entire island was even displaced in the sea. Garp clearly remembered the feeling of being hit by this punch. No force could defend him. Armament hockey iron body is as fragile as bread in front of it. Garp was reduced to ashes almost instantly, without giving any time to struggle. Then a white light flashed and the screen disappeared. Garp was suddenly brought back to reality. I couldn't help but break out in cold sweat, my spine felt chilly, and even my mouth Kakuzu was trembling. Look up, before all this happened, Luffy had just used a rubber rocket launcher. 114. Don't dare to let go, knock Luffy out of Nika form with one blow. Previous chapter next chapter advertisement. This feeling is called fear. Garp has lost count of how many years it has been since he felt this way. The scene that observation hockey sensed in advance made Garp sincerely feel scared. What kind of power is this? Is this a punch that a human being can deliver? Garp has no doubt that if the Inspector General hadn't taken into consideration that there was marine on this island, then his punch would not have been more powerful. Maybe one punch can destroy this island directly. Terrible. Garp saw Ron take 4 shots in total. The first time was the attack on Luffy's ship in the Seven Waters. The second time was here where one punch wiped out Dorag's aerial bomb ship. The third time was to threaten Kizaru. A punch caused the sea to split open and the ravine stretching to the end of the field of vision seemed to be still in front of him. But these 3 times were not as impactful as the 4th time. Observation hockey predicts the future in advance, which is what he will experience. Nothing is more unforgettable than personal experience. The feeling was so real. This is the first time Garp has quantified Ron's offensive power. At the same time, it also allowed him to experience firsthand the consequences of releasing water. Garp looked at the execution platform. There were Ace, Rayleigh, Bartholomew Kuma, and Luffy in front of him. In the attack just now, they were all instantly wiped out. Together with the execution platform, there was nothing left except a bottomless hole in the ground. Garp couldn't help but take a deep breath. Even if he lets himself go, Luffy will definitely die, and so will he. The ending is fixed, so how should you choose now? Garp couldn't help but look up at Luffy who was attacking him. Now, Garp felt as if time had stopped around him. Everything around him slowed down. It seemed like I could hear the sounds from every corner of the entire battlefield. Looking at the old man like this, he must be reluctant to beat Luffy. If Luffy is stable this time, he will definitely be able to rush over and rescue everyone on the execution platform. This was the voice of his unfilial son Dorag. Garp frowned. Gu la la la, that guy Garp really has no intention of attacking. It seems that this move is the right one. Sure enough, only by letting Luffy rush over can we hope to break through Garp's level. That guy Dorag still knows his father. This is the voice of that old guy Whitebeard. Come on Luffy, use the rubber bazooka to send Garp flying. Victory is in sight. After rescuing everyone, we will evacuate this place quickly. That's great. We are about to achieve our goal. We are only 20 meters away. There will be no problem. That Vice Admiral Garp is Luffy's grandfather. Don't worry, he will never do anything to Luffy. I can guarantee this. Advertisement, the only person who can pass the last level is Luffy. The sound of the sun and the moon in the future. This is the cry of the pirates around them. When Garp heard this in his mind, he couldn't help but feel a headache. These pirates were so accurate that I wouldn't hit Luffy. Come on, Vice Admiral Garp, you must stop that boy Luffy. That's great. With Vice Admiral Garp guarding there will be no problem. Do they think they can save Ace with only 20 meters? Little do they know that these 20 meters are the most difficult for you to break through. You guys underestimate our marine hero Garp too much. Mr. Garp was the man who chased the Pirate King everywhere back then. It's not easy to deal with a young boy like you. Vice Admiral Garp, let us see your iron fist again. Suddenly, Garp heard another sound. This is the voice of a marine. This is the voice of his subordinates. They believed in themselves so much that no one doubted that they would let Luffy go. They all believe that they will beat Luffy away. At this moment, Garp actually felt a little ashamed. I had never noticed before that these marine soldiers had such high hopes for me. They really believed they could stop Luffy here. He is their last hope. Garp couldn't help but think about how big a blow it would be to them if Luffy was let off this time. Of course, there are also many voices that need beating, such as Kizaru using that guy. He actually muttered there. Huh, Vice Admiral Garp seems to be using the stupidest way of leaking water, so be lucky. The Inspector General has very sharp eyes, and he can even see through the sophisticated way of letting people go. Not to mention you. Now, Garp came back to his senses and looked away. Everything around him seemed to be moving at the normal flow of time again. Rubber, rocket launcher. Garp stared at Luffy and frowned. Luffy is using this trick on himself that seems to mean nothing. If Grandpa lets you off the hook here, you will definitely die. Rather than doing this, it would be better to knock you out and lock you in an undersea prison, so that you can at least save one life. And it won't dash the hopes of the marine soldiers. To put it this way, it kills 2 birds with 1 stone. Garp's expression changed instantly. At this time, Luffy's attack had already cut through the air, and with a hiss, he attacked Garp. Grandpa, get out of the way, Luffy shouted again. Watching Garp stand there motionless, Luffy felt hope, since Grandpa didn't dodge this move. then it will definitely be beaten away. As long as he is knocked away, there will be no obstacles on his way to the execution platform, and he can finally rescue Ace and the others. With this thought in mind, the rubber rocket launcher hit Garp directly on the chest with what Luffy thought was a very ferocious attack. Advertisement boom. He let out a muffled groan. However, the scene that all the pirates in the revolution wanted to see did not happen. Garp. Not moving at all. Luffy stared blankly at Garp, who didn't move at all. His face turned livid involuntarily. Unexpectedly, with his full blow, the opponent didn't even move his body. This is a second-speed rubber rocket launcher. How can this be? Luffy couldn't believe it. Dorag couldn't believe it either. Is the old man crazy? Why didn't he just take advantage of the situation and get knocked away? This is not in line with the old man's character. What's wrong with him? Dorag also seemed to notice the change in his father's expression. Now, Garp's head, which had been lowered, slowly raised. He looked at the rubber rocket launcher that hit his chest, and then looked up at Luffy. Too weak. Garp sighed, then he said slowly with firm eyes. Luffy, don't blame Grandpa. There's someone supervising the battle this time, so we really can't let go. Otherwise you and I will die even worse. Garp didn't want to see the future he had foreseen happen. While saying this, he clenched his fists. An iron fist as big as a sandbag was wrapped around armament hockey emission. Garp gritted his teeth. He knew that this attack must not be frivolous and must be very serious. Otherwise, the Inspector General would see the flaw and think that he was deliberately lax. Then their fate will still be the same as the future foreseen by observation hockey. Therefore, Garp even used high-level armament hockey this time. This frightened Luffy so much that his face turned pale. It seems that I am recalling how I was often lectured by my grandfather when I was a child. But this time it's different. Even if Luffy's strength is relatively low, he can still feel the power of this fist. Grandpa is serious this time, so Garp was in everyone's sight. One punch, hitting Luffy directly, worthy of being called Garp the Fist. The jet black hockey lightning wrapped around his fist, and with great force, he punched Luffy directly. Boom. There was a loud noise, and immediately after, Luffy vomited blood and his eyes turned white. The whole brain is unconscious. He couldn't withstand the huge impact at all, and almost flew backwards the moment he was hit. As fast as a shooting star, before anyone could react, GG hit the ground directly. Advertisement suddenly, dust filled the air, gravel flew everywhere, and the entire ground vibrated. Garp's punch was quite serious. At this moment, everyone was confused. Dolog couldn't help but roared, Garp, are you crazy? Do you want to use such a large amount of energy? He is your grandson. This scene went beyond Dorag's plan. He never imagined that Garp would actually attack Luffy, and he would punch him so hard. Not to mention Luffy, even he might not be able to withstand this punch. Are you crazy? Dorag felt that Luffy's breath was getting weaker and weaker. It seemed like it was about to disappear. This is a sign that life is about to dissipate. This is why Dorag is so angry. Even if you're a Marine, can you ignore family ties? Dorag could feel that just 10 seconds ago, Garp was ready to release his water. But I don't know why, but my attitude suddenly changed 180 degrees. He actually punched his grandson unconscious. Is this still Garp? Is this still the doting bastard? Even Whitebeard was shocked. I never thought that things would develop to this point. Hey, you were clearly planning to let Luffy go. Why did you suddenly change your mind? This doesn't look like you, Garp. Whitebeard said in a deep voice. At this point, the only hope they could exploit has disappeared. If even Luffy can't break through this last layer of defense, then no one can break through. No one thought that Impu could even kill his own grandson. Luffy couldn't handle the punch just now, and I don't know if he is still alive now. Luffy. Ace shouted desperately. He didn't expect Garp to do this. Why is this? What enables him to kill even his own grandson? Ace said angrily. Mr. Garp, what are you doing? Do you need to be so serious? Luffy will die. Everyone thought Luffy was dead. Because they could feel Luffy's aura getting weaker and weaker. But this is understandable. 99.99% of the people present would die if Garp beat him like this. Dorag's expression was extremely ugly, because he can no longer feel Luffy's breath. However, at this time, suddenly, a strange laugh came from the direction where Luffy fell. Nika 115. The sky cleared up and the rain stopped. Luffy felt like he was okay again. Previous chapter next chapter advertisement. It wasn't until he saw Garp take action that Ron loosened his fist. Regarding Garp's performance just now, Ron was very satisfied. Whenever this guy made any move to let off steam, Ron would directly go up and kill him with one punch. But judging from his performance just now, Garp suddenly figured it out at the end. This punch did not hold back at all. Ron couldn't help but nodded, thinking that Garp had passed these tests. Garp, good job, you look like a Marine now. Ron clapped his hands and said. Even Garp breathed a sigh of relief. Hearing Ron say this, he finally felt relieved. It seems that this time, the future predicted by observation hockey can finally be avoided. As long as the Inspector General doesn't think he's letting things slip, that's fine. Sure enough, as Kizaru said, this Inspector General has very sharp eyes, and he can tell at a glance whether he is serious or not. Fortunately, when I attacked just now, I didn't let go. Garp was a little lucky. Thanks to his observation hockey, he was able to avoid the worst situation. Garp saw Ron's kind expression at this moment. Who would have thought that another future would be so scary? After Luffy was beaten away, all the Marines burst into cheers. As expected of Vice Admiral Garp, this is our role model. Let me just say that Vice Admiral Garp will never allow anyone to break through the last line of defense. Let those stinky pirates be arrogant, and now their last hope has been killed by Vice Admiral Garp. This is the quality of an excellent Marine. In the face of justice that he must protect, even his own grandson cannot do it. Even Vice Admiral Garp is like this. From now on, we will treat pirates equally and strictly enforce the law. Garp's move instantly boosted Marines' morale. it strengthens what Marine protects. All Marines are extremely excited at this moment. From then on, in front of them, all pirates will be treated equally, no matter whether the pirate is a Shichibukai, a child of the four emperors, or a descendant of a senior Marine, they will all be merciless in the face of justice. Garp's punch made justice have no boundaries. Wherever the light of righteousness can shine, that is the area the Marine's fist of justice can touch. Look at Marine's high morale. The pirates on Whitebeard's side and the Revolutionary Army on Dorag's side were all very frustrated. This punch seemed to kill all their hopes, their efforts were rendered useless. They were instantly discouraged. Looking at the completely different reactions from both sides, I have to say that Garp's punch saved his own Marine career. If he had let the water go, the situations on both sides would have been completely opposite. At that time, Marine would be frustrated and the pirates would be cheering. Advertisement if that's the case, even if Marine finally kills Ace and destroys the Whitebeard pirates. It is just winning the war and losing the future. But now this ending will not only give Marine a bright future, but also allow them to win this war. Even Kizaru couldn't help but touch his chin, a little confused. This ending was unexpected. He was still thinking about how Garp would be released, and what Ron would do to him if Garp was released. He made countless assumptions, but he just didn't expect that Garp didn't release the zone. Has this old guy figured it out? How did he figure it out? This shouldn't be the case. At least I was convinced by the truth. This old guy Garp figured it out on his own? Is he so enlightened? When two armies are fighting, morale is the most important thing. At this moment, Marines' morale is high, and their combat effectiveness is also rising. The pirates themselves were defeated one after another, and this time, even their last hope was shattered. The same is true for the Revolutionary Army. They were surrounded by Ron's move and were defeated. Now the encirclement is encroaching on their Revolutionary Army step by step. Originally, they thought they could delay some time for Luffy to successfully rescue people, and then they could retreat. But now, they never thought that this guy Garp could even carry his own grandson. And he beat him so hard. With the punch just now, even from such a distance, they could feel the pressure. At this moment, they were really desperate. Dolog frowned and felt that his own morale was severely dampened. But at this moment, he is still more concerned about Luffy's life and death. This old man is really crazy. Is Marine being fooled by his head? If he doesn't let him go, he won't let him go. Even if he takes action, he doesn't have to be so ruthless. Luffy, Ace and Sabo also roared on the execution platform, not knowing whether Luffy was alive or dead. However, at this moment, suddenly, where Luffy fell, there was a strange laughter. Nico Naikani, for a moment, everyone who paid attention to this scene couldn't help but be stunned. What the hell? Doesn't Luffy die like this? Is he still alive? I feel Luffy's breath again. This guy is still alive. Dolog couldn't help but smile. It's just that the sound is a little strange. Whitebeard also changed his expression, frowning and thinking, this voice. Ace was also stunned, but he didn't understand what was going on, but as long as he was still alive, it would be fine. Great, Luffy is still alive. This laughter is like the beat of a drum. In the smoky depths, there seems to be a drum beating continuously. It's the drumbeat of freedom. The hearts of all pirates and revolutionary troops beat with this rhythm. Advertisement. Why'd I feel so powerful? I don't seem to feel tired. In an instant, all the decadent atmosphere of the pirates and the Revolutionary Army disappeared. They can even feel that their physical condition is completely different. And not only that, morale is constantly improving. This voice has such magical power. Even the flag-waving and shouting woman, the commander of the Eastern Army of the Revolutionary Army, couldn't help but feel extremely surprised at this moment. The power of this voice is so similar to my own fruit ability. It can inspire people, stimulate morale, and even improve everyone's combat effectiveness. Kizaru touched his chin and couldn't help but sigh. Zone's fruit is in Nika's form. His fruit has finally awakened. The so-called sun god, he is back. Kizaru is one of the few people who knows this secret. It's because his devil fruit and Luffy's devil fruit are related to a certain extent. At this moment, the other Marines were confused. How is this possible? He was punched by Vice Admiral Garp and he is still alive. What is he laughing at? Is he still alive? At the same time, everyone's eyes stayed on the smoke-filled place. Although you can't see it, you can hear it, as if a drum is beating. It seems like some monster is coming out of there. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew by, the smoke dissipated, and a figure gradually appeared from the middle. With white hair and a happy smile, Luffy looked at his hands in shock at this moment. The style of painting has changed. What power is this? Why does my body feel so powerful? That blow just now, nothing happened to me. Even Luffy himself didn't believe it. At this moment, he could feel the power in his body and the extremely powerful vitality. The drumbeat, symbolizing freedom, spread throughout the island. Even the elephant owner in an extremely distant place was awakened. I feel so nostalgic. Is that man back again? Feeling that he was completely different at this moment, Luffy couldn't help but smile. The current self is more than 100 times stronger than before. Luffy didn't even know why this happened and didn't even have the concept of awakening. But this is no longer important. Luffy suddenly covered his forehead with his hand and grinned unconsciously. Advertisement, Nicole Naikani, but now he found that he was qualified to stand here. All kinds of attacks hit Luffy, but they were of no use at all. This is equivalent to suddenly giving a child a gun. He will think that he has the power to fight against the world. A nearby giant, Vice Admiral, was about to use Giant Slash to intercept Luffy while he was in the air. However, Luffy exaggeratedly pulled his body to deform, and he dodged it. Ace, I can save you this time. Nico Nico Ni, Festival. Feeling that his whole body is filled with inexhaustible power, Luffy is now full of confidence. Then, he kicked the giant Vice Admiral down and used the force to continue bouncing upward. Now he thinks he has the ability to save Ace. When Luffy's state of mind has not matched this strength has awakened. At this moment, Vice Admiral, the nearest flying squirrel, instantly drew his sword. To them, Luffy is now a pirate, and they have the right and obligation to eliminate him. Shooting. So, these soldiers raised their guns and various weapons without hesitation and attacked Luffy, who was laughing there. No matter what the reason, he did wake up at this time when he shouldn't have. This is the confidence that Garp's actions brought to Marine, the confidence to treat everyone equally and to unswervingly implement justice. Then it was their duty to stop him. At the same time, the ground under his feet was assimilated into rubber and turned into like a trampoline. Started to chop at Luffy. Luffy laughed, and he was surprised by this power. Naikani, Luffy was directly launched into the air and flew in the direction of Ace. This power gave Luffy great confidence. 2 Vice Admirals in succession were no match for him, and he felt that he was good again. He is also qualified to take Ace out of here, qualified to break through Garp's last line of defense. Suddenly laughed. Unexpectedly, Luffy jumped up and punched the flying squirrel Vice Admiral. The area where he was hit was assimilated into rubber and stretched exaggeratedly. I used to think that the battlefield of Summit War was out of reach. At this moment, all the Marine soldiers had no hesitation anymore, because they already knew Garp's position. Eligible to Marine 3 Admiral Edition, with just one move, the flying squirrel Vice Admiral was knocked away. The nearby Marine soldiers suddenly reacted, although they didn't know why. Luffy was not dead and was still alive and kicking here. Maybe it was the moment when Luffy was about to die that the Fruit Swirl was inspired. Nico Naikani, quick, attack him quickly. 116. Your grandpa is still your grandpa. Garp beats Nika Luffy with one punch. Previous chapter. Next chapter advertisement. Rubber Fruit awakens, and the world government suddenly becomes a sensation. When the 5 elders got the news, they immediately convened a meeting. Right now, in the world government conference room. 5 elders, fat, frowned and paced back and forth, looking a little restless. But I didn't expect that this fruit would still awaken. If Shanks hadn't snatched this fruit away back then, we wouldn't have let this fruit wander outside. 5 elders, hi, said impatiently. Can you stop wandering around? What's the point of talking about this now? No one thought that this fruit would awaken in this generation. It seems to be a troublesome thing. 5 elders, sword. But this is also good news. The current Luffy's strength is not enough to support the awakening of Devil Fruit. We now have a good opportunity to eliminate him. 5 elders, thin, slammed the table. Let's go, let's ask for instructions like Lord I am now. But then again, why didn't I see the patrol outside today? Where are the guards in Marijoy? 5 elders, short, rolled his eyes at him and said. Did you just notice, Master Ron was transferred away early this morning? 5 elders, thin, this. That is to say, Marijoy doesn't have any guards now? Master Ron still has his own way of doing things. Master I am doesn't care about him. If we did this, Master I am will definitely kill us. After a while, the 5 elders met I am. Okay, I already knew what you told me, so you don't have to worry about this matter. I am stood on the high platform with his hands behind his back and said without looking back. After hearing this, the 5 elders couldn't sit still. Lord I am. This is the Nika fruit. Every time he awakens, it will bring huge changes to the world. I am said calmly. Ron told me about the imminent awakening of the Nika fruit 10 years ago, and when he left this time, he specifically said that he would handle the funeral affairs of the Nika fruit himself. Tell you 5 idiots not to participate. The 5 old guys below the stage looked at each other. Who are the 5 idiots? You're not talking about us, are you? Sir Ron already knew that the Nika fruit would awaken in Straw Hat Luffy? No one has awakened in the past 800 years. How did Master Ron determine that he would awaken at this time? The 5 elders, fat, were impatient and asked immediately. I am said calmly. Ron said he can. Do you still need to question this? I don't dare, I'm just curious. 5 elders, fat, was shocked and apologized quickly. 5 elders, sword, said with some worry. But if we don't intervene, what if Luffy escapes? As we all know, Nika fruit users are basically immune to death. I'm afraid they won't be able to subdue Luffy. I am obviously a little impatient, waved his hand, and finally said. Just leave it to Ron, he will definitely find a way, and you don't have to worry about this. I am left after saying this. The 5 old guys looked at each other and couldn't help but sigh. Advertisement Master I am still dotes on Master Ron so much. Such a big matter was actually left to Sir Ron to handle with full authority. But, after the Nika fruit ability user awakens, they basically immune to death. Can Ron Celestial being do it? The 5 elders sighed, not believing that Ron could handle Nika fruit users. Now, in Marineford, after awakening, Luffy was very arrogant, laughing and jumping up and down the window. Countless Marines couldn't do anything to him. Not only is this guy's body flexible, he's also immune to guns and bullets, and he seems to be able to assimilate all the objects he touches into rubber. Even the human body can. It's really scary. Just in the blink of an eye, 5 or 6 of them will eventually be turned over. There are countless other Marines. Luffy just yelled and continued to rush towards the execution platform happily. At this moment, not even Garp thought about it. This guy Luffy actually didn't faint, and even awakened his fruit power. He is quite clear about how much attack power he used just now. He thought he could knock Luffy out with one punch. He never expected that someone could withstand his own punch. Driven by Luffy's free drumbeat, the morale of the pirates and the Revolutionary Army greatly increased. Since there are some trends to counterattack, start a crazy breakout. The whole scene became evenly matched with Marine again. Sir Ron, what's going on? Isn't Luffy a rubber devil fruit? Why did he suddenly become like this? Stussy asked with a puzzled look. How strange, he is the Nika form of Zone's fruit. I just happened to wake up. At this moment, Ron is sitting on the podium, watching this scene. His face looked a little bad. It's not because the pirates are getting more and more advantageous. Mainly Ron listened to Luffy's cries and howls, laughing while saying, Nicole Naikani, over and over again. It's really jarring. Annoyed to death, it's really unbearable. It's just noise. Garp, your work is not done yet, finish what you should do. Tell him to calm down, it makes my head hurt, Ron said in a deep voice to Garp. Garp nodded, his expression becoming very serious. Advertisement at the same time, he was a little speechless. Luffy, if only he had fainted at that time, and now he has made things so complicated. At this moment, Luffy rushed all the way and came to Garp again. Jumping on the stone stairs, his white hair was flying in the wind, and he was grinning widely while getting ready to attack. Garp frowned, Luffy, don't get up this time, just lie down and faint. Garp is really helpless. This grandson doesn't make him worry at all. Can he still understand the current situation? How happy he is. What's the use of fainting at night? You'll just get beaten up if you get up over and over again. Could it be that he thought that by awakening with this fruit, he could really get out of BFDB? Garp is not interested in this Nika fruit awakening at all. Isn't it just a fruit awakening? At least 5 of the Marine personnel present have awakened devil fruit abilities. It's nothing unusual in Marine headquarters. Luffy didn't seem to pay any attention to Garp's reminder. At this moment, he was really confident. He had just passed 5 levels and killed 6 generals, and no one could stop him. Now that his grandfather is standing in front of him, Luffy is not afraid anymore. He believes that with his ability, he can easily break through. The ability brought about by the awakening of this fruit is really unprecedented. Luffy didn't even know that the fruit could awaken before. Suddenly receiving a large amount of strengthening, Luffy was really a bit swollen. And its expansion in the physical sense, because it really expanded. At this moment, Luffy's body seemed to be inflated. He immediately used third gear and aimed his huge fist at Garp. With the blessing of Devil Fruit's awakening ability, his move is more powerful than the ordinary third speed rope repeater. Grandpa, get out of the way quickly, I don't want to hurt you. Luffy grinned and said with a Nicole Nikani smile. Garp showed a very disgusted look, frowned, and couldn't help but said. Luffy, don't get up this time, just lie down, it will be good for you. Garp was very serious and just stared at Luffy without hiding. However, when a person is swollen, he will not listen to anything. Even at this moment, Luffy didn't think Garp could beat him away again. Rubber, third gear. Luffy raised his huge fist and punched Garp in front of him. This time it was much more powerful than his previous second speed rocket launcher. F2F. The huge fist fell directly from the air with an extremely exaggerated sense of oppression. Because Luffy's performance just now was extremely eye-catching. This caused all the pirates and revolutionary forces to rekindle hope in Luffy. Although they don't know what Luffy's ability is. But it did give them a great encouragement, advertisement. The cheerful jumping appearance and the free drumbeat gave them hope. In addition, Luffy has killed 6 Marine Vice Admirals along the way, and he did so easily. This makes them look forward to Luffy even more. This time, Luffy was definitely not knocked away by Garp like the last time he attacked the execution platform. This time he will definitely be able to complete the last 20 meters. Rush to the execution platform. Come on, Luffy. You'll be fine this time. The pirates and the Revolutionary Army cheered in unison. This drumbeat of freedom boosted their fighting spirit. Under everyone's expectations and cheers, Luffy's third gear went straight down. Bang. The huge fist hit Garp directly, however, what no one expected was. There is no difference between Garp and the last attack. Still didn't move, whether it was the second speed rocket launcher before or the third speed rocket launcher after the fruit awakened. None of which made Garp take a step back. I saw Garp's gloomy face. Then he looked at Luffy and said, don't stand up this time. Luffy's expression changed drastically, he no longer smiled, and looked at his grandfather in disbelief. You have obviously become stronger, why can't you still defeat the opponent? As soon as he finished speaking, Garp clenched his fist, the same armament hockey wrapped around it, and punched Luffy directly. Bang. Luffy was like a deflated rubber ball, it cut through the air and hit the ground violently. Garp exhaled and glanced at Ron. He was relieved when he saw that the other person's expression did not change. He was afraid that Ron would be suspicious of his fighting. After all, the scene he saw was too scary, so he tried his best every time he attacked. He now hopes that Luffy's matter will be settled as soon as possible, so that this guy will faint quickly, and then be put in an undersea prison. This is the only way to save Luffy's 10 lives. Luffy was beaten away again, which made these pirates and the Revolutionary Army instantly feel that their hope was shattered again. They didn't expect that they would lose again so quickly. Then at this moment, what they can't imagine is. There was another sound coming from the smoke, Nico Nikani. Garp was stunned when he heard this voice. Isn't this endless sit-ups? Didn't this make Ron misunderstood? I told you to faint quickly, can't you hear me? Garp was angry. 117. Kizaru. Should I shoot the key or Luffy's head? Previous chapter next chapter advertisement now, on the sea not far away. A pirate ship is sailing towards Malinfondo at full speed. None other than red-hair pirates. At this moment, red-haired Shanks is standing on the bow of the boat. Looking intently in the direction of Marin Fando. They were so close to Marineford now that they could even feel the smoke rising over there. At this moment, Shanks suddenly felt something was wrong. So he said to Ben Beckman next to him, did you feel sound over there? Ben Beckman felt it with his heart, and then shook his head. Too far away and can't hear anything, Shanks frowned. I seem to hear the sound of freedom drums. Could it be that rubber fruit has awakened? After all, Shanks stole rubber fruit, so of course he knows the secret of rubber fruit. This is why Shanks took Luffy so seriously when he ate the rubber fruit and said he wanted to become the Pirate King. This is not just because Luffy said what Roger said. There are too many people saying this, and it is impossible for Fengus to stop one of his arms when he encounters 10. He doesn't have that many arms. I put my arms on the new era. This sentence is talking about Luffy who ate rubber fruit. However, at this moment, he heard this familiar voice, which was obviously after rubber fruit awakened. You mean that rubber fruit has awakened? Awakened in Luffy? Ben Beckman was a little surprised. This thing has not awakened for 800 years. Even when the captain pressed him on Luffy, Ben Beckman still didn't think Luffy could awaken this fruit. Shanks nodded. My feeling is unmistakable. I felt the call of the Nika fruit. He has really awakened. How could it be possible to awaken so early? This is not good news. With Luffy's current strength, there is no way to control this fruit. Hearing what Shanks said, the main cadres of the Red Hair Pirates had already gathered. They are also interested in this devil fruit awakening. Ben Beckman said with some worry. Luffy doesn't even know hockey now. This fruit is in his hands. At most, it has a more resistant attribute. The world government has been staring at this fruit. If they know that they have awakened, they will not let Luffy go. Shanks nodded. Yes, that's what I'm worried about. It's too early for Luffy to wake up now. It seems we have to hurry up and get to Marineford to stop this fight before Luffy is caught. Otherwise, it will be too late. Upon hearing this, Ben Beckman immediately ordered his subordinates to move forward at full speed. Their pirate ship was now using all its strength and speeding towards Marineford as fast as possible. This battle must be stopped and Luffy must be saved. This is what Shanks is thinking right now. At this moment, rescuing Pluto and Rayleigh no longer seems very important. Rescuing Luffy is the most important. After Luffy was beaten underground, even he thought he would definitely die this time. But he never expected that. He actually stood up again. Advertisement. This is so amazing. After suffering such a heavy blow, he was still able to stand up. There is a feeling of infinite sit-ups. Luffy couldn't help but feel his body. He found that this state was really tough. Regardless of any blow, the opponent's attack can be converted into rubber at the moment of being hit. It can also turn the ground into rubber when it lands. So the damage to him was really minimal. In addition, his current physical attributes are also very strong. So he was still able to stand up again despite this kind of attack. Nicole Nikani, Luffy's white hair flew upwards and he emerged from the dust again. When all the pirates saw this scene, they couldn't help but be ecstatic. Emotions changed so quickly. Just now, they thought Luffy was dead. After all, he had been hit to the ground so hard by Garp. They could feel the sense of power just now even from such a distance. With this punch, the entire air was filled with shockwaves, making those who were close unable to stand. But even so, Luffy still survived. What does this mean? It means that God is on their side. It means that they are the ones chosen by God. This battle must be won. Luffy's sit-ups again instantly gave these pirates and the Revolutionary Army great confidence. Now their confidence has turned into blind confidence. Even Luffy can stand up after being attacked so much. Is there anything more inspiring than this? Absolutely not. In an instant, these pirates and the Revolutionary Army clashed even more fiercely. This will double the pressure on Marine. Garp was very angry when he saw Luffy standing up again. No matter what I say, this is Marine's peak combat power. He can't defeat a supernova for such a long time. Who would believe it if I tell him? What should I do if I am misunderstood? Garp is now most afraid that Ron will misunderstand his betrayal, because if he is misunderstood, he and Luffy will be killed instantly. He had seen this with his own eyes, so he tried his best in these two matches with Luffy. But Luffy can jump up after being knocked down, sit-ups again and again. And it seemed as if he was not injured at all, which is really hard not to misunderstand. I had just told Luffy not to stand up if he was knocked down. As a result, this guy just didn't listen and stood up over and over again. Garp was a little angry. At this time, he was no longer on the execution platform and jumped directly from the air. Bang! Landed at an altitude of nearly 100 meters. Advertisement directly smashing a big hole into the ground. Fell in front of Luffy. Garp was very angry and said, Luffy, tell you not to get up again. Why don't you listen? Garp even said this through gritted teeth. Can't this stupid boy clearly see the current situation? What's the use of standing up over and over again? Besides getting beaten a few more times, what's the use? Do you really think you can save Ace? This is just me taking action alone. You can't even rush to the execution platform. Do not forget, there are still 4 or 5 people here who are about the same strength as me. They haven't taken action yet. Do you have to make things so big? Don't you know that Grandpa is saving you? If you faint as soon as possible, Grandpa will put you in an undersea prison as soon as possible. This is the best ending. Don't challenge everyone's patience by constantly standing up over and over again. At this moment, Garp could already feel Ron's eyes behind him becoming impatient. It was obvious that Ron was a little impatient that he hadn't taken down Luffy for so long. Moreover, Garp could also feel that Ron seemed to have some intention of taking action on his own. This is absolutely not okay. Garp couldn't help but secretly decide that he must get rid of Luffy as soon as possible. If Ron were to do it himself, there would be absolutely no way for Luffy to survive. Then, Garp's iron fist of love struck Luffy again. Unexpectedly, this guy stood up again. Nicole, every time, just like immune to death's Xiaoqiang. Get up when you get knocked down. Garp's old face turned dark. This guy can't be defeated, can he? If Kaido is here 2 years from now, he will definitely feel the same way as Garp. Teacher guy almost broke his mace, but Luffy could still stand up again and again. However, after being beaten several times, Luffy's physical strength was a little tired, and he also felt that he could never be Garp's opponent. At the moment, the most important task is to save Ace. Therefore, Luffy moved towards the execution platform while fighting. I rely on myself to stand up every time. So he got closer and closer to the execution platform, and then took advantage of Garp when he wasn't paying attention. He actually jumped onto the execution platform. Advertisement. Luffy, Ace and Sabo said excitedly together. They didn't expect that Luffy would actually do it. Great, I'll find a way to unlock your Seastone handcuffs. At this moment, the executioner on the execution platform happened to be Mr. 3. Luffy was overjoyed. He immediately made a key out of candles. At this moment, the hearts of all the pirates and revolutionary troops were in their throats. Luffy, this guy, is about to be saved. Great, their purpose of coming here has finally been achieved. As long as they get people out, they will win. At this moment, Luffy excitedly took the key and was about to unlock Ace's handcuffs. At this time, Ron said calmly without any panic. Kizaru, you know what to do. There was no hint of anxiety in Ron's tone, as if all this was expected. At this moment, Kizaru was suddenly named. He couldn't help but be stunned. He thought that this battle could be left to Garp, but he never expected that he would not be used. But he was so far away from the opponent that it was too late to rush over, so he could only use laser to shoot over. When he thought of it, Kizaru immediately stretched out a finger and aimed at the key first. The laser hovered above, creating a substantial halo. Kizaru's mouth was crooked and his fingers stopped there. At this moment, he couldn't help but think, should I shoot the key or Luffy's head? This place is so far away from Ron and so far away from Luffy. It makes sense for me to miss it a little bit. Ron shouldn't be able to notice it either. How about just shooting the key? The moment Kizaru took aim, he hesitated. After all, this is the only person who awakened Nika Devil Fruit in 800 years. Kizaru wanted to save his life, but when he thought about the scene where Ron warned him before, he thought about the cracking sea behind him. Kizaru couldn't help but shudder. Then without hesitation, he lifted his finger upward slightly from the direction aimed at the key. Aim at Luffy's head and directly activate the burst mode. Shoo shoo shoo, from a single shot directly to a machine gun. It shows how aware Kizaru is. In order to prevent Ron from misunderstanding, he tried his best and used the most violent attack. Boom. The laser was shot directly on Luffy's head with perfect accuracy. Knocked Luffy to the ground directly. Facts have proven that during the Summer War, if Kizaru wanted to shoot him in the head, he could definitely shoot him in the head. Ron saw this scene and nodded with satisfaction. Pill. 118. Kirby stops Akainu from killing Luffy, ordered to be executed on the spot. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. A pink-haired man in the corner looked at the marine soldiers and pirates who were constantly being wounded and killed, covering his head and shouting in pain. Luffy almost rescued Ace, but he didn't expect that Kizaru had a sniper talent. Even though he was so far away, he could hit with one shot. It was so powerful, after Luffy was shocked, flying far away. And yellow lasers hit him one after another, caught him off guard. Kizaru saw Ron's expression at this moment, and seemed to be very satisfied with his attack. Finally I couldn't help but feel relieved. He breathed a long sigh of relief and was very happy. It seemed that his choice just now was the right one. If he had chosen to attack Luffy's key, he would have been beaten again now. Although this place is far away, if you deliberately miss the target, the Inspector General will definitely see it. Fortunately, I am smart, Kizaru couldn't help but admired secretly. Even if Luffy's Nika fruit could withstand another beating, at this moment, he was already a little exhausted from the continuous attacks. After all, the attacks he resisted were from the world's top masters. If it had been anyone else, he would have been dead by such repeated attacks. This is enough to show that the Nika fruit is indeed powerful. After awakening, it increases defense and health. Not only the person involved, Garp, but also Whitebeard on the side felt a little weird. How powerful is Ka? 690. Pooh's attack. Of course he knows it. As an old opponent, he has also experienced it. It's just that I didn't expect Luffy's awakening ability to be so strong. This recovery ability and ability to withstand blows are much stronger than Marco's. It seems that the title of Phoenix is more suitable for Luffy than for Marco. Nicole Nikani. Luffy laughed and flew up again. This guy could actually fly in the air. The Nika fruit is indeed pervert. However, Ron didn't seem to like the laughter very much. Moreover, everything Ron wanted to verify has been verified. Luffy no longer has any need to exist. Kizaru also passed the final test, and so did Garp. Then this boring farce should end, so Ron clapped his hands and said, Akainu, Kizaru, you two come together, quick victory. Don't waste any more time. There was no emotion in Ron's tone, as if he was just talking about something trivial. When Akainu's name was called, he couldn't help but become interested. He also wanted to know what kind of ability this Nika fruit had, and it was so resistant to attack. I don't know if I can handle the fever. Advertisement. The next moment, Akainu and Kizaru jumped up at the same time. He immediately rushed towards Luffy. Whitebeard, who was in this direction, wanted to intercept, but was blocked by Aokiji. Hey, I can't let you go. Let me be your opponent for now. Aokiji was not idle either and directly released a huge ice wall to block Whitebeard, leaving him unable to intercept Kizaru and Akainu. Kizaru was faster and arrived. Without hesitation, he directly used the light speed kick. He kicked Luffy on the body. Although Luffy obtained the fruit ability awakening, his speed was much lower than Kizaru. Can't react at all. After just one encounter, Kizaru was kicked away, and Kizaru kicked directly in the direction of Akainu. I have to say that at the critical moment, Huang Yuan was actually not a little cautious. He left the hardest part to Akainu. Although he decided to attack Luffy, and he used all his strength when attacking, he did not let go. But if you want to kill someone, let someone else do it. In this way, even if Garp and others are blamed in the future, I will not be blamed. Leave it to Akainu, the scapegoat. This is also the reason why Kizaru flew in front of Akainu, just to kick Luffy back and into Akainu's hands as soon as possible. In this case, let this guy Akainu handle it, just in time. Akainu hit Luffy directly with a dark hound from top to bottom. The huge penetrating force brought with it blazing flames, knocking Luffy directly to the ground. However, what Akainu didn't expect was that this guy was also resistant to high temperatures. His own hot magma hit the opponent, but it had no obvious effect. Sure enough, pervert, no wonder the world government is so afraid of this fruit awakening. Dolog, which is not far away, certainly does not allow this to happen. After all, Luffy was also his son, although he didn't understand why Garp, an old man with a literary background, showed no mercy at all. This threw a wrench into his plans. Originally, he and Luffy came together to take advantage of Garp's reluctance to hit Luffy, and then use a move to surprise him. Let Luffy go up and rescue the person directly, then they took the people and left here quickly. Originally, all this plan was logical and everything should go smoothly, but he never expected that things were completely different from what he thought. This old man was so cruel, which directly disrupted Dorag's rhythm. As a result, all their soldiers were surrounded here, and now it was too late even if they wanted to retreat. The boats were gone, and the people were surrounded. Now, they actually want to take Luffy away. If they were allowed to succeed, wouldn't he lose his son and lose his troops? So Dorag naturally doesn't allow this to happen. Several admirals actually bullied his son together. Advertisement: how is this possible? Think of this. Dorag decided not to hold back anymore and immediately joined the battlefield wholeheartedly. After all, he is the leader of the Revolutionary Army, the man most feared by the world government, not only because of his influence, but also because of his strength. Dorag's strength is not weaker than the four emperors at all. When Akainu chased Luffy, who fell on the ground, Dorag was the first to jump out. Suddenly, a strong wind blew. The entire sky was covered with dark clouds, and a strong sea breeze suddenly hit. Set off huge waves. It's a typhoon. Durago directly set off a typhoon, controlling the wind that could destroy everything, and blew it towards Marinfondo. The typhoon was so powerful that it overturned the entire dock in an instant. Then it moved inland. Everything he passed was flat except for the ground. The violent sea wind came to Dolog and gathered directly into one place. It spun violently on the spot, turning the typhoon into a tornado. Swimming towards Akainu at an extremely precise angle. The ground wherever it passed was directly rolled out into huge ravines. It seems like it can split the earth into two. The tornado tore through everything in the air, and the sand and rocks that were swept in were instantly crushed into powder. This is Dorag's ability. Akainu's expression changed. He didn't dare to be careless, and immediately distanced himself. Then he forcibly stabilized his body shape. Due to such interference, Akainu was forced to retreat, giving Luffy time to breathe. Drago controls the wind and prepares to blow Luffy back. However, at this time, Ron said softly, "Sengoku, go and stop him." Ron is still sitting on the highest command podium, arranging every battle situation. Sengoku had just captured Blackbeard and others, but he didn't expect that before his butt was hot, he was sent out to fight again by Ron. After all, he is also a marine marshal. It should have been his job to command the battle, but now it's better, he has become a part-time job. However, in this battle, as he got to know Ron, Sengoku had great admiration for the Inspector General, so he obeyed Ron's arrangements. He immediately jumped down from the 100-meter high command podium. When he jumped into the air again, his whole body expanded rapidly and became gleaming with golden light. Big Buddha form, jumped directly into the tornado. Shockwave. I saw Sengoku using a shockwave directly in the opposite direction of the tornado. Two forces confront each other, it directly dispersed the tornado. The tornado that was enough to destroy the entire square disappeared at this moment. Everything is calm again. Advertisement: the surrounding marine soldiers finally stood up from the ground. The wind was so strong just now that they were almost blown up, let alone able to stand firm. Dorag, your opponent is me. Let's stop here and don't go any further. Sengoku fell to the ground and frowned. Dolag's expression was grim. He didn't expect that Marshal Marine would personally participate in the battle. This is going to be troublesome. With the Marshal blocking him in front, he doesn't have the ability to rescue Luffy. Soon, a fight broke out between the two sides, and on Luffy's side. Akainu immediately rushed to Luffy without the interference of others. He launched a Doran attack on Luffy. At first, Luffy could hold on for a few times, but the awakening of the fruit consumes a lot of energy. He couldn't hold on much longer. It is not without reason that the Nika fruit awakens and is known as the Sun God. It's really very resistant to high temperatures. Since even Akainu's magma can withstand it, if Ace knew that he died blocking the lava for the Sun God in another world, would he be scolded? Finally, Luffy's physical strength was exhausted, his fruit awakening ability disappeared, and his white hair gradually turned black again. Not Nicole anymore. At this moment, he didn't even have the strength to stand up. Akainu flew towards road 0.5 step by step, his entire arm turned into magma, and hot magma was flowing toward the ground. The ground he was lying on made a sizzling sound. Thick smoke billowed out. Akainu walked up to Luffy with a serious look on his face. His instinct told him that this man must not be kept and must be killed now. Moreover, the Inspector General did not say that anyone should be kept alive. So Akainu directly raised his fist, preparing to kill Luffy with one punch. However, at this moment, a pink-haired boy came out and stretched out his hand to stop Akainu. This person is Coby. It seemed that the entire air became quiet, and everyone held their breath and watched this scene. I saw this pink-haired boy crying and shouting. The sound echoed throughout the battlefield. Stop fighting. You are wasting your life. Let's stop here. If we continue to increase the number of victims, wouldn't the soldiers who fall now look like fools? Every soldier has a family waiting for them to come home. Akainu's expression changed, and his movements suddenly froze. Who is this guy? At the most critical moment of the battle, it was not the enemy who stopped him, but his own people who stopped the general and made arrogant remarks. Ron suddenly slammed the chair. Marine doesn't need soldiers whose morale is shaken. Kill him. 119. The duty of eradicating evil is over, not only to win the war, but also to kill them all. Previous chapter next chapter advertisement. Because Luffy was caught, the hopes of these pirates and the Revolutionary Army have been shattered, and their morale has dropped to a low level at this moment. There is not much time left before complete defeat, and the entire army will be defeated soon. Morale is very important in a large-scale war like this. If one side's morale collapses first, then it has basically lost. Therefore, when Luffy failed to launch 3 attacks on the execution platform, the morale of the pirates and the Revolutionary Army was suppressed time and time again. Now it has reached its lowest point. If this continues, Marine will win immediately. Therefore, now all the Marines are in high spirits, their morale is high, and all their energy is thinking about how to deal with the pirates. All the revolutionary troops and pirates looked at the scene that Luffy encountered. There was no way to rescue or stop him. They were all extremely sad. Some people even have no desire to fight anymore. They see no hope, and the drumbeat of freedom can no longer boost their morale. They pinned all their hopes on Luffy, believing that only he could break through Garp's defense and finally rescue Ace and others. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. When the hope is shattered, that is when their venting of anger is shattered. Originally, when the pirates and the Revolutionary Army reached this point, they were basically not far from losing. Even Whitebeard and Dorag, both of them were unable to revolving heaven, and there was no way to bring back the morale of the pirates and the Revolutionary Army. However, at this moment, Coby suddenly rushed forward and stopped Akainu, leaving Akainu unable to kill Luffy immediately. At this point in time when everyone is paying attention, Luffy's life and death is undoubtedly the focus of everyone. 15. All the pirates and marines believed that Luffy must die. But no one expected that a marine suddenly rushed out and stopped Akainu. And he made a lot of nonsense. What he said was impassioned, and what he said to Marine was an accusation. Just let Marine reflect. In his mouth, the whole battlefield was caused by Marine's fault. The countless casualties were only caused by Marine. If Marine didn't dispatch and Marine didn't deal with the pirates, where would there be so many casualties? So this is all Marine's fault. Marine must stop this and reduce unnecessary casualties. You have already won the war, why do you still want to catch the pirates? He actually said in front of these Marine soldiers that their families were waiting for them to go back. Nakedly disrupting military morale. They never mentioned that these casualties were caused by pirates, and they never mentioned that everything Marine did was to eliminate pirates, protect their families, and uphold justice. Advertisement in his eyes, he only saw casualties, not what Marine maintained. Without the sacrifices of these people, how could ordinary people be safe? Nowadays, isn't everything Marine is doing to eliminate chaos in the world and create a peaceful sailing world? Nowadays, except for pirates, there are few normal merchant ships on the sea who dare to sail. The vast sea has become a paradise for pirates. This sea belongs to everyone, not just to pirates. But as long as they exist, other ordinary people will not dare to go to sea. What Marine has to do is to eliminate all this and return the sea to the public. Now, in Coby's words, all of this has become Marine's fault. What countless soldiers fought to protect has become unworthy in his words. When the whole army was paying attention, he actually rushed up to stop his coach, and his mother's heart exploded, reducing Marine's achievements to nothing. Even placing the blame for these casualties on Marine. There is no doubt that Coby's remarks constituted a crime that disturbed the morale of the military no matter where they were made. What's more, it's still when the two armies are fighting. The sins suffered are even more important. These remarks made all Marines confused. Not everyone is very firm in their three views, and some people are easily led by crooked officials. Especially Coby's remarks, which may sound correct at first glance, seem to make sense, but they always feel that something is wrong, and many people cannot react. Without calm and rational thinking, it is easy to lead some not-so-smart people astray. Even many soldiers began to fall into self-doubt. Reflection began. Obviously what I did was not wrong, and it was obvious that what I was doing was the future of the entire sea, but why do I feel like I did something wrong at this moment? Isn't this wrong? Is it wrong to fight with your life to make the sea safer and return it to ordinary people? Are such casualties wrong? Shouldn't we pursue the pirates fiercely? Should we let these pirates go after we achieve a staged victory? Could it be that Marine only fights to win, and that as long as he wins, he can spare others? Once the hand wielding the blade of justice is confused, it will hesitate, and hesitation will lead to defeat. Half of the Marine soldiers, whose combat effectiveness was disrupted, began to feel a little unable to withstand the pirates. The previously encircled circle was also about to be broken through. Compared to Marine's confusion now, the pirates were a little cheery, feeling like they were recognized by Marine. This young pink-haired Marine inspired them even more than Luffy's free drumming. Yes, you Marines have already won the battle, so why do you want to kill them all? It's your fault that you want to kill them all, even though we are pirates, even though we burn, kill, loot, destroy at will, rob prisons and prisons, attack Marines, and ignore the rules, but we are good people. Although there were countless casualties and caused a lot of damage, we were here to save people. What's wrong with saving people? It's obvious that you Marines are wrong. If you don't arrest people, do we need to save people? How about we? Is it necessary to die so many people to save people? The pirate's animalistic nature was suddenly ignited, and he slashed at Marine even harder. Advertisement suddenly, there was a tendency to suppress Marine. Coby was still crying and shouting, "Stop this battle, don't add any more unnecessary casualties. Stop it." The sound continued to spread out. Akainu's brows frowned deeper and deeper, and the fire at this moment had been ignited. He really wanted to punch this person to death, however, today is different from the past. If he had done this before, he would have done so without hesitation, but it was different now. Now Marine has someone to supervise the battle. In the direction of the highest podium, there is also an Inspector General who came down from the world government. So Akainu must consider what the Inspector General means before doing anything now. After all, many people's practices have been criticized by the Inspector General before this. Therefore, if he kills a Marine soldier in this public place nowadays, it will definitely have a bad impact. Will the Inspector General agree to this? However, just when Akainu hesitated, suddenly, a voice came from the highest podium. I saw Ron slam the chair, then he said angrily. Akainu, you are hereby ordered to execute this Marine soldier on the spot. Kill him. Marine does not need soldiers with bad views, soldiers who disobey orders, and soldiers who sympathize with the enemy. Akainu couldn't help but admire the decisiveness of the Inspector General, and he did not hesitate a moment. He directly raised his giant fist of hot lava and hit Coby directly. The hot magma is still rolling. The intense temperature scorched the entire land until it was scorched red. For Akainu, it is easy to kill such a Marine soldier. However, he still used such a large array. Coby never thought the Marine Admiral would actually attack him? What I just said is not wrong. Marine must have been touched by something that hurt him before he took action against himself. At this moment, in his pupils, the fist burning with hot lava continued to expand, getting closer and closer. Advertisement, you must have been right. Coby wanted to continue to say something, but Akainu didn't stop his fist at all. He punched it directly. The entire ground turned directly into magma and sunk down. A violent flame suddenly burst into flames. Coby had already been burned to ashes. There is no need to reason with this kind of holy mother who disturbs the morale of the army and sympathizes with the enemy. There is no need to argue with him about right and wrong. Just kill him and be done with it. Kirby. Garp couldn't help but sigh. After all, these were the soldiers he led. But there is no way. Garp also knows how evil Coby's behavior is in the battle between the two armies. When the other 430 people saw this scene, they couldn't help but have different feelings. First of all, it was pirates. None of them expected it, and they couldn't help but be stunned at this time. I was really frightened by Marine's vigorous approach. On Marine's side, most people didn't react for a moment. Because some of them were led astray by Coby's remarks. Ron looked down from the command platform, looking at these Marine soldiers, and knew that this was the best moment to establish their three views. It's time to take advantage of Kirby's counterexample to strengthen Marine's justice and reshape these Marines' outlook on life. After all, ever since they became Marines, they have never really understood what exactly Marines are protecting, nor do they know what Marines are going to do. Not only them, many senior Marine generals don't know. They only knew that Marine wanted to catch pirates, but they never thought about why they wanted to catch pirates, and they didn't know the deepest reason. It is precisely because they do not know what the ultimate goal of justice is that many of them are easily led astray. Ron slammed the chair at this time, then he said in a voice that overwhelmed everyone present. Our Marine goal has never been to win any war. Our goal has always been to eliminate all pirates. Eradicating evil will bring peace to the entire ocean, and let this ocean of Guangzhou once again raise the sail of safety. What you are doing now is so that more people can no longer live in fear on this sea, and no longer have to worry about when their homes will be robbed by pirates, let alone be afraid of being robbed by pirates, killing. We want to make all sea and land smooth, so that people can sail on the sea without fear of pirates. To achieve this goal, we need not only to win a war, but to eliminate all pirates. As long as they exist, there will be a place where people live in fear. Ron's impassioned speech was like enlightenment, instantly awakening these Marine soldiers. Justice suddenly became clear. 120. 8 feet of jade. 100% hit. Kizaru 2nd Army Captain. Previous chapter. Next chapter advertisement. The Marine soldiers who were originally confused because of Kirby's words, after they listened to Ron's impassioned speech. I was enlightened in an instant, and my whole mind seemed to be broadened. In a word, the pattern was opened. They know what Marine is fighting for, and they know what the future Marine wants to achieve looks like. When a person has a goal, he has the motivation to continue fighting. When a person has faith, he has the courage to sacrifice his life for it. Just like all Marine soldiers at this moment, including many senior Marine generals, their moods are very complicated and exciting at this moment. Their dim lives suddenly gained a touch of passion. If the world could really be like what the Inspector General said, then what would it matter if they gave up their lives again? Who didn't dream of such a future when they first became a Marine? Who wasn't a young man with a righteous heart, willing to fight for it, and fearless at that time? There are always people in this world who believe in the light. Even if the world is so dirty now and even if the beginning is so difficult, they still see the future that Ling En describes for them. Fight, fight. The momentum of the entire Marine was instantly lifted to an unparalleled height, and morale suddenly reached its peak. All Marine soldiers are no longer confused. They know who they are wielding their swords for, and they also know what kind of dawn will come after expelling this darkness. Come on. Kill these pirates, not one of them can get out alive. What we want is not just victory, but the annihilation of all pirates. There is no way out. What kind of soldier is the most terrifying on the entire battlefield? Not the one with the best equipment, nor the strongest, but the one who knows why he is fighting. At this moment, the situation on the battlefield was instantly out of balance. The balance gradually tilted towards Marine, and the most intuitive manifestation of Tian Bing's high fighting spirit was the sudden outbreak of combat experience. The pirates and the Revolutionary Army were overwhelmed in an instant and had no time to fight back. This was the fastest defeat the entire pirate and Revolutionary Army had faced since they entered the battlefield. The battle lines are constantly moving back. The entire encirclement was shrinking rapidly, Marine became more and more courageous in killing, and the pirates retreated continuously. Until everyone was surrounded back to back, with no way to retreat. This scene made Sengoku dumbfounded. He has led Marine for 40 years. He'd never been more surprised, he'd never seen Marine look so capable. This momentum is condensed together, as if an invisible giant is controlling a battlefield. It's simply a dimensionality reduction blow. Although Sengoku was fighting Dorag, he still took time to look in Ron's direction. I can't help but admire you very much. This Inspector General who is only 18 years old is so damn good at talking. Advertisement compared to the pirates and the Revolutionary Army, their expressions were not so good. Especially Dorag who was fighting Sengoku at the moment. As a Revolutionary Army, what they are good at is fighting such large-scale wars. Tien knows that the most important thing in such large-scale wars is to be angry. He has led troops into war for nearly 20 years, and has never encountered such a terrifying team. I have never met such an inspiring commander. With the military's morale so low, a few words directly turned corruption into magic and reversed the situation. It instantly united the morale of the troops and strengthened their faith at the same time. It's really off the mark. After saying these words, Dorag wanted to join Marine directly. Isn't this the dream he pursued before? It's just that his path seems to have gone astray over the years. If I had had a commander like this when I was serving in the Marine Corps, then he will never leave Marine, nor will he create any Revolutionary Army. I guess he has become a Marine Admiral now, right? Dorag shook his head violently, throwing away this thought. I couldn't help but sigh secretly. I didn't expect this little guy to persuade me. I told myself that I wanted to be a Marine. Terrible. But at this moment, Dorag's tactics have changed. Saving Bartholomew Kuma is no longer the most important thing to him. Let's save Luffy first. After all, he is his son no matter what, and that is the most important thing. Not only that, this guy also awakened Nika Devil Fruit. If the legend is true, then he will be the god killer who will lead the next era. Under the leadership of the Drumbeat of Freedom, we will be able to overthrow the world government and re-establish the world order. Therefore, whether it is public or private, Dorag must protect Luffy. Now that the strategic focus has been re-established, Dorag suddenly broke out, fought back Sengoku, briefly pulled away, and immediately shouted loudly. Where are the 4 military commanders? Commander of the Eastern Army, Belabedi, please give me your instructions. Commander of the Confederate Army, Lindbergh, please give me your instructions. Commander of the Western Army, Jasmine, please give me your instructions. Commander of the Northern Army, Crow. Suddenly, responses began to sound from different directions. Dorag's face looked slightly better. It seemed that he was the commander of the army and was still alive. In this case, there is still some hope of counterattack. Listen, change the combat goal. From now on, we will do our best to rescue Luffy. After the rescue, we will find a way to leave here directly, no matter what the cost. Dorag planned to do his best to protect Luffy this time, let everyone take a backseat and retreat directly behind Luffy. Advertisement, yes. The 4 army commanders responded in unison and immediately began to carry out Dorag's orders. They all changed directions and began to rush towards Luffy. Giant Jasmine burrowed directly into the ground, dodged all interceptors, and came to Luffy's feet in the straightest possible way. At this moment, Admiral Akainu had just finished executing Coby and was walking towards Luffy. Luffy's physical strength has been almost exhausted now, his hair has turned black, and he is sitting on the ground panting. At this time, when Akainu was about to attack Luffy, suddenly, the ground sank in. Jasmine came right under Luffy and used the fruit's ability to directly drag Luffy into the soil. Afterwards, the entire ground returned to normal again. Akainu frowned at this scene, very annoyed. Jasmine can move quickly underground. Even if observation Haki can predict the location, there is no way to attack her in a short time. The moving speed is too fast. Only by capturing the sight and smell and attacking at an extremely fast speed can we hit Jasmine. Although Akainu can detect the opponent's position, his attacks cannot hit so fast. After all, the opponent is now dozens of meters deep underground. By the time his attack is transmitted, the opponent will have disappeared. Kizaru, get this guy out of the ground. Ron, who was sitting on the podium, saw this scene and immediately gave instructions. Among the 3 admirals, it can be said that Kizaru's knowledge and appearance should be the best. This guy can use the airtight 8-foot Magatama in the deep sea to bypass the submarine and accurately draw the line during the saturation blow. Such a dense attack could not hit a single submarine. It's enough to see that this guy's observation Haki is awesome and can easily avoid this invisible submarine. This is also the origin of the 8-foot border jade. When Kizaru heard Ron's instructions, his face darkened. He found that his chances of being named in the Summit War were too high. Whenever there is a dirty job, let yourself do it. This guy has gone underground, how can I find him? But Kizaru didn't dare not listen. Complaints are complaints, and there must be no less work to be done. Kizaru jumped directly into the air helplessly, crossed his hands, and burst out with the yellow light of the cross star. Then he closed his eyes directly. In fact, Ron was right about this. Among the 3 admirals, his observation Haki was indeed the best. Even if the enemy has entered the underground, he is still moving at high speed underneath. But when Kizaru closed his eyes, he still clearly pictured a specific location in his mind. Under the scanning of Kizaru observation Haki, Jasmine could not hide at all. After Kizaru locked the position, the yellow light on his arm also burst into ultimate. Accumulation completed. Target lock completed. The predicted trajectory is completed. Advertisement. In order to avoid the next attack, Jasmine continuously changed her position underground, determined not to walk in a straight line. Suddenly the entire ground collapsed and was beaten to pieces under the laser fire. Under this overwhelming impact, almost instantly, countless yellow rays of light struck Jasmine accurately and came out directly from her body. Land dozens of meters thick is no different from biscuits in front of the laser. Speed is weight. Accelerate, change direction, move. Even faster than moving on land. As long as he wants to, he can attack the target without wasting a single laser. Ron looked at this scene and couldn't help but shook his head. Shoot Jasmine through it like a sieve, 8-foot Magatama. The entire ground was like a biscuit, smashed into pieces. It collapsed instantly, gravel flew everywhere, sand and dust filled the air, and the entire square vibrated. The attack came behind Jasmine in the blink of an eye. The next moment, countless yellow lasers shot out from where Kizaru crossed his hands. After the laser on Kizaru's hand disappeared, the smoke dissipated. If the kinetic energy is large enough, it can penetrate anything. Even if it is the thick ground dozens of meters deep. Extremely fast, there were penetrating scars all over his body. Jasmine was a giant in her own right, and her body was already extremely large, but now it became the biggest drawback. All this has been predicted by Kizaru. Good, Kizaru's observation Haki is indeed very strong, and combined with his extremely accurate shooting ability, it can basically achieve precise strafing. Directly exposed, countless blood spurted out. It can be seen that when this guy Kizaru shoots the submarine, he 100% releases the water. Otherwise, according to his accuracy, it would be very difficult to miss, let alone the stroke. Even if Jasmine moves very fast down there, even if he keeps changing his position, he still can't avoid Kizaru's precise attacks. Swish swish. At this moment, the giant Jasmine was lying on the ground, breathless. The yellow light was like a sharp arrow, piercing straight towards the ground. But Jasmine's expression changed drastically. She felt the crisis coming, and she couldn't help but feel chills running down her spine. She hugged Luffy and sped up. Peeved. Behind the dazzling golden light, Kizaru twisted his mouth and said lightly, "Don't bother, I predicted all the possible positions you might appear in."